Chapter 1217. Saving Ling Jian. Wang Xian walked in the air. His strength had increased so much that he was no longer sprinting on land like before. With his current strength, he could kill a powerhouse at the first level of the see-through realm in his human form. If he were to transform into a divine dragon, his strength would increase again. According to his estimation, although he could not defeat a powerhouse at the second level of the see-through realm in his divine dragon form, he would definitely be able to escape from the hands of a powerhouse at the second level of the see-through realm. However, what he did not know was that after he left he had another name. The mysterious man, the sword demon. Even if he knew, Wang Xian could only smile. He could not walk the path of swordsmanship. The sword was just to display the offensive techniques of the Golden Water Sword Principle. When Wang Xian had completely integrated the combined attacks of his attributes, he would be able to display all the attacks of the Golden Water Sword Principle without using his sword. He was not a pure swordsman. Wang Xian flew quickly to where he was staying and arrived at the pine and poplar forest in less than an hour. Awoo! When he opened the door, the cry of the spirit purple Qilin could be heard from inside. It stood up and walked over with its huge body. It was obvious that it had not seen Wang Xian for a month and even missed him. Wang Xian rubbed its head and took out the corpses of a few ferocious beasts from his interspatial ring. Awoo! It let out an excited cry and swallowed it directly. After all, it had not eaten for a month. "I've found a few playmates for you." As Wang Xian spoke, he moved his Na Ling bag and 5 little golden monkeys came out from it. The demonic beast cub, the little yen monkey, was obtained from the Black Cloud Fort. However, other than the little yen monkey, there were a few other living creatures that came out from within. It was a tortoise with a blood-red shell. It had a blood-red head and looked extremely ferocious. It was a void interpretation first-level dire beast, the blood fiend tortoise. It had a 3-meter-long body, and its shell was filled with sharp spikes. When this tortoise came out, 6 more tortoises came out. However, this time it was not the blood fiend tortoise, but the blood trace tortoise. The blood trace turtle was a ferocious beast 2 levels lower than the blood trace turtle. The strength of the 6 turtles was only at transcendent level 9. Wang Xian obtained these turtles from the Blood Spirit Cave. This was also because he had stayed in the Blood Spirit Cave for a few hours. The owner of the Blood Spirit Cave had obviously kept many ferocious beasts and pets. All of them were corpses. Only a few turtles with relatively strong vitality survived. Wang Xian spent some time to subdue all of them. "Don't leave this courtyard." Wang Xian ordered the group of ferocious beasts and walked into the room. Apart from the blood evil turtle and the spirit purple unicorn, Wang Xian was prepared to sell all of these ferocious beasts, especially the 5 little yen monkeys. They would definitely fetch a good price. "Let's tidy up our harvest." Wang Xian walked into the room and took out the interspatial rings of the Meng clan's people. He checked the treasures inside. TSK, my harvest this time should be close to 2 trillion middle-grade spiritual stones, right? Wang Xian's face was filled with excitement. The spiritual liquid, elixirs, and spiritual herbs only took up a portion. For example, weapons, armor, formations, demonic beast cubs, ferocious beast pets, pet eggs, and 2 half-step void interpretation ferocious beast bloodlines. There were almost all kinds of things. In addition to the items he obtained from over 200 people of the Meng clan, all of them were above Transcendent Level 6. He could have whatever he wanted. "I'll first consume these spiritual herbs, pills, and spiritual liquid." Wang Xian sorted out all the items one by one and looked at the items that could directly increase his dragon energy. Without any hesitation, he consumed them directly and transformed them into dragon energy. The dragon energy that was difficult to increase was increasing at a terrifying speed. Name: Wang Xian. Race: 5 elemental divine dragon, able to transform into a human. Level: Extraordinary 8th level. Dragon Crystal 3017640/1000000. Supernatural ability, ruling the water tribe. Ruling the water tribe that is lower than one's own level. Devouring creatures to extract dragon crystals. Control of the 5 elements. Cultivation method. Divine dragon transformation. Supernatural ability. Fire dragon's flame. Gold splits the void. Descent of the wood world, water crisis city. Fury of the earth, soul capture, spirit possession. Light and dark fire dragon eyes. Light and dark void. Light and dark shadowless. Earth dragon shield, light and dark. Divine dragon's fire tail, water spirit, fire territory, water, and wood healing. Dragon Palace, level 3. Dragon Palace members, 3,395. Close to 30 million, an increase of 30 million dragon crystals. After Wang Xian swallowed all the spiritual herbs, pills, and spiritual liquid, together with the energy he obtained from Long Xiaotian, the amount of energy he needed to level up had reached 1/3. Selling the remaining resources will definitely increase my level. Wang Xian grinned. There were the most materials for crafting, and many of them were at the void interpretation level. Other than that, there were weapons and armors that had been crafted. There were 7 to 8 formations that were obtained from the Sword Mansion. The highest grade formation was the Sword Formation at the 2nd level of the Insightful Void tier. It was extremely powerful. Other than refining the materials into weapons and armors, I have to think of a way to get rid of all these items. Wang Xian was deep in thought. He couldn't buy them from Long Xiaotian, but he should be able to help sell them. However, he hesitated for a moment before shaking his head. There were too many items and the value was too high. It might take a long time for him to help deal with them. Is there an auction house here? Should I go and take a look? Wang Xian thought about it. He only went to the hiring association once and didn't take a good look at the surroundings of the hiring association. It seemed that he would have to stroll around here and find a way to convert the resources into his own strength as soon as possible. Let's rest for a while first. However, Wang Xian didn't go out immediately. He hadn't rested for more than a month and was lying comfortably in his room. Roar, roar, roar. Wang Xian didn't know how long he had slept. He felt that he had slept for at least more than 10 hours. A roar came from outside and woke him up. He frowned slightly, put on his clothes, and walked into the courtyard. The moment he came out, he saw Ling Zilin, Blood Evil Turtle, and the rest of the demonic beast staring fiercely at Xiaoha, who was standing on the wall. Roar, roar, roar. This Xiaoha cried out with a pitiful face full of anxiety. When it saw Wang Xian coming out, it suddenly shrunk its head and cried out immediately. Save me. The human voice that came out of his mouth surprised Wang Xian slightly. He waved his hand and ordered Ling Zilin and the rest to stop shouting. He stared at Xiaoha and asked directly, "What did you say?" Save Jian chirp, chirp, chirp. Xiaoha stood on the wall and cried out anxiously. However, as he was a cub, he didn't know many languages. As he spoke, he was anxious. He extended his hand and pointed to the other side of the wall. "Are you asking me to go with you?" Wang Xian looked at the anxious little fellow curiously and asked with a look of surprise on his face. "Awu." Xiaoha nodded his head vigorously and gestured once again. "All right, I'll go over." Wang Xian hesitated for a moment before nodding his head. He flew straight to the wall. Xiaoha turned his head and brought him to a courtyard at the side. When Wang Xian came to the wall of another courtyard, he saw a woman lying in the courtyard. Chapter 1218. He was the Sword Demon. It seems to be the lady called Ling Jian. Wang Xian looked at the lady who was lying on the ground with a look of surprise on his face. "Awu, awu." Seeing that Wang Xian was standing there motionlessly, Xiaoha bit on Wang Xian's pants and tugged anxiously. "Why is she lying here? It shouldn't be. Wang Xian looked at Xiao Ha and flew to the lady's side. Huh. Wang Xian sensed her life force and frowned slightly. Her aura was weak and she could die at any time. Water and wood healing. Wang Xian did not hesitate at all. The dual attribute, healing, spell, landed on her body. A terrifying life force entered Ling Jian Yar's body. The majestic life force caused her body to move. Her eyelashes trembled slightly. It had to be said that Ling Jian was very beautiful, at least in Wang Xian's eyes. She wasn't any worse than Shu Qing and the rest. However, she wasn't any better than Shu Qing and the rest either. Therefore, Wang Xian didn't have the slightest fluctuation when faced with such an ordinary beauty. Ling Jian woke up. Her face gradually regained its rosy color. She was slightly stunned when she saw Wang Xian. Awoo! At this moment, Xiao Ha jumped in front of Ling Jian Yar's face excitedly and licked it. Ling Jian Yar's heart was slightly enlightened. She looked at Wang Xian and said coldly, "Thank you." "No need." Wang Xian stood there and shook his head. He didn't leave immediately. At this moment, Wang Xian and Ling Jian Yar's face suddenly changed drastically. Their ruddy face quickly turned pale. She frowned and touched the spot on her chest. Her expression changed slightly. "It's poison, heavenly antidote flower poison." Ling Jian Yar's expression darkened. She shook her lips tightly, and her body started to tremble slightly. However, her expression quickly calmed down. Wang Xian looked at her in astonishment. Ling Jian was poisoned. It was a lethal poison. She had merely used her strong vitality to recover from it. The poison had not been removed at all. It was obvious that she had also realized that she was poisoned. However, she did not react at all. Her aura gave him an ashen look, as if she had accepted the fact that she was dead. "I can save you." Wang Xian had wanted to wait for her to speak first. However, he had no choice but to speak. "You can save me? I have been poisoned by the heavenly antidote, flower poison." Even if a powerhouse at the first level of the see-through realm was poisoned, he would still die. There is no antidote at all. A faint desire to live flashed across Ling Jian Yar's eyes. She raised her head and looked at him. 10,000 spiritual liquid, Wang Xian said faintly. Ling Jian was slightly stunned when she heard her words. It was obvious that she was stunned by her words. "Is it too much?" Wang Xian saw her expression and frowned slightly. 9,000 is fine. If it's really not possible, 8,000 it is. Ling Jian was even more stunned when she heard her words. This was the first time she had seen someone speak to her in such a manner. To be able to raise a pup of a demonic beast with a level 2 void interpretation bloodline and use a level 2 void interpretation weapon, you shouldn't be unable to even take out 8,000 spiritual liquid, right? It can't be any less. If you don't have it, give me the weapon in your hand. Wang Xian frowned and said to her, "I have 10,000 spiritual liquid. Hero." The pain in her body made her react. She quickly said as she felt a pain in her chest. She couldn't help but spit out blood and immediately took out 10,000 spiritual liquid from her interspatial ring. She is indeed a rich woman. When Wang Xian saw the spiritual liquid, a hint of a smile flashed in his eyes. He moved his arm and placed it directly on her shoulder. Ling Jian Yar's body trembled. She couldn't help but widen her eyes slowly. The consumption is too great. Phew, all right, I'm leaving. In just a dozen seconds, Wang Xian retracted his arm. His body, which was full of smiles, moved and disappeared. He returned to his own courtyard. Ling Jian was in a daze as she sensed her body. Her face was filled with disbelief. He really cured the heavenly antidote, flower poison. This. Her eyes flickered as she looked at her interspatial ring. Her breathing was slightly hurried. In order to obtain the item in the interspatial ring, she was willing to risk her life. If it wasn't for the person who suddenly appeared, she would definitely die. Even if I obtain this treasure and become a peerless expert, what can I do? Defeat him? A bitter expression appeared on her face. Ao ao. Xiao Ha's cry came from beside her. Ling Jian smiled and carried him. Thank you, Xiao Ha. She stood up slowly and carried Xiao Ha. Ao ao. Xiao Ha raised his head proudly. Then he extended his claw and pointed in the direction of Wang Xian's courtyard. Ling Jian followed the direction of its paw and muttered, "What a strange fellow! Awu, awu." Suddenly, Xiao Ha let out a weak cry, causing Ling Jian to be slightly stunned. He wawa wawa. Xiao Ha looked at Ling Jian and spat out a word. Then it began to gesture with its paw and opened its mouth wide. Are you saying that he is very strong? Ling Jian looked at it and asked with a smile. Owa wawa wawa. Ow 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 ow. Little Ha nodded its head heavily and began to gesture again. At the last moment, at the spot between its eyebrows, where the white face was, another eye opened. Ling Jian was slightly stunned and opened her mouth slightly. You mean he's that sword devil? Ao 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 ao. Xiao Ha nodded heavily once again. Ling Jian looked at the courtyard not far away from her. Her eyes filled with astonishment. He was actually the sword demon, the sword expert who had killed 2 insightful Void Realm experts yesterday, the sword demon. Having witnessed his strength with her own eyes, even she was incomparably impressed. However, such a powerful sword demon was actually such a young man. How was this possible? However, Xiao Ha had a third eye and a terrifying sense of smell. There was no way she would make a mistake. I really didn't expect such a greedy guy to be that cold-blooded sword demon. Ling Jian recalled the scene of Wang Xian saving her and asking for the spiritual liquid. She couldn't believe that sword demon was such a person. Haha! Saving a person cost less than 1,000 dragon crystals and earned 9,000 spiritual liquid. Wang Xian returned to the courtyard and couldn't help but laugh. It would be great if I could meet more people like this. Wang Xian thought with a smile. He didn't want to wait for that lady to die before he could obtain her treasures. There was a way for a gentleman to take what he liked. Of course, if someone had ulterior motives, Wang Xian would not only take his wealth, but also let the dragon pool absorb his corpse. Wang Xian, who was in a good mood, beckoned to Ling Ziling and the rest of the demonic beasts before flying towards the center of the city. He wanted to see if there was any place where he could sell the resources he had as soon as possible. When he arrived at the center of the hiring association, Wang Xian scanned his surroundings. After hesitating for a moment, he walked towards the Holy Item Forging Workshop. He wanted to see the price of weapons recycled by the Holy Relic Forging Workshop. Chapter 1219 Dragon and Phoenix Grocery Store. 70%? Only 70% of the market price? Wang Xian entered the Holy Item Forging Workshop and asked the staff inside with a frown. Of course. You still want to recycle at the market price? How is that possible? The staff replied to him with a slight sneer. Wang Xian raised his eyebrows and walked straight out. He walked on the bustling road and looked around. Wang Xian would naturally not sell all kinds of weapons and armors to them at 70% of the market price. He had so many weapons in his hands. It was a complete loss to sell them to the Holy Item Forging Workshop. Let's see if there's an auction house. If it's an auction house, it would be a quick way. Wang Xian looked around. After walking for a short while, he saw an extremely glorious auction house, the Blood Emperor Auction House. This Blood Emperor Auction House seems to be set up by the Blood Flow Empire. Wang Xian walked over immediately. However, what made him feel helpless was that the Blood Emperor Auction House was held once a month. It was only held for 2 days this month. If he wanted to auction items, he would have to wait until the following month. No, 1 month is too long. Wang Xian shook his head and continued to look around. There were all kinds of shops. They were densely packed with elixirs, weapons, pets, mounts, formations, spiritual meat. There were thousands of different shops in the central area. There were big ones and small ones. I took a look at 2 more auction houses, but the scale of the auction house was too small. Wang Xian had too many things. He didn't dare to entrust such a small auction house to conduct an auction. This made him frown. Hold an auction on my own? Get Long Xiaotian over to oversee the auction to prevent people from directly snatching it. He pondered in his heart, but he quickly ruled it out. There were too many things involved. Publicity was one aspect. Moreover, if an auction was to be held, there had to be a strong person overseeing it. Long Xiaotian was in the assessment period. During this period, the power of the Light Dragon dynasty was forbidden to be used. With only the title of a prince, it was obvious that he could not suppress the other factions. Another important point was that if he were to get close to Long Xiaotian, he reckoned that the other factions would not need to do anything. The other princes of the Light Dragon Empire would come to rob this auction. Creak! The sound of the door closing came from the side. An old man walked out and pasted a note on the door. He shook his head and left. Wang Xian took a glance and stopped. He looked deep in thought. Open my own shop. His eyes flickered. He still had a lot of metal materials that he needed to refine into weapons. Those materials would take at least 5 to 6 days to be refined. Why don't I open my own shop and get Long Xiaotian to help recruit people to advertise it? I can refine weapons on my own and sell things normally. If my reputation starts to spread, the items in the shop should be sold out very quickly. Wang Xian's eyes sparkled as he pondered for a while. This method was really feasible. Since he could sell it at a high price, it wouldn't take long for him to refine weapons and armor in the shop. He made a decision in his heart and began to search for a suitable shop in the entire area. The location of the shop was not bad, but the shop was too small. Wang Xian's shop was a grocery store. There were all kinds of miscellaneous items and even demonic beasts and ferocious beasts for sale. Naturally, he had to find a bigger shop. After searching for a while, Wang Xian identified a shop that was on sale. It was big enough and had 3 floors. It used to be a weapon shop, but now it was closed. Wang Xian immediately contacted the owner and bought it for 50 million middle-grade spirit stones. 50 million middle-grade spirit stones was definitely a very high price. However, this was the tomb of a demi-human. If one wanted to open a shop in the tomb of a demi-human and owned a shop, the price would naturally be hundreds of times higher than the price outside. After buying it, Wang Xian immediately flew towards his residence. He needed to make some preparations. He was going to contact Long Xiaotian and bring some people to patronize the shop. He was going to set up the shop. Bang! When Wang Xian pushed open the door of the courtyard, he looked into the courtyard in slight astonishment. Roar! Roar! In the courtyard, Xiaohua was standing on the body of a level 9, see-through, blood-traced turtle. He was chirping with the 5 little yen monkeys. At the side, Ling Zilin and the blood-evil turtle were lying on the ground. They did not pay any attention to Xiaohua. When it saw Wang Xian enter, it shrunk its head and threw something at him. This is... Wang Xian was stunned when he saw the blood-red item that contained energy being thrown at him. Blood essence. 700 dragon crystals can be extracted from dragon energy. Blood essence. Is this the blood essence? Wang Xian immediately took it and examined it carefully. Blood essence was similar to the spiritual liquid. It was 2 items that were produced in the human demon graveyard. The spiritual liquid was very useful to humans. Blood essence was very useful to demonic beasts and people with bloodlines. No wonder the spirit, purple Kylan blood, evil, turtle, didn't chase it out. It turned out that it bribed the treasure and even got along with a few demonic beasts. Wang Xian revealed a smile and kept the blood essence. He looked at Xiao Ha and his body trembled slightly. A wave of kindness was transmitted directly into Xiao Ha's mind. Xiao Ha was slightly stunned. He looked at Wang Xian slowly with a gaze filled with friendliness. That Ling Jian is really careless. She let a cub with the bloodline of a second-level void interpretation stage demon beast go so easily. If I have any thoughts, I can subdue it directly. Wang Xian thought to himself, "Roar, roar." At this moment, Xiao Ha flew towards Wang Xian and stood on his shoulder intimately. Wang Xian stroked its head and sat on the chair beside it. He poured himself a cup of tea and sent a message to Long Xiaotian. He gave a brief explanation and asked him to help promote his shop when it opened. After sending the message, Wang Xian took out a piece of metal material and prepared to make a signboard. The signboard didn't need to be too good, but it couldn't be too bad either. It was made of metal material of extraordinary level 8. Let's call the shop Dragon and Phoenix grocery store. The items sold are pretty miscellaneous anyway. Wang Xian thought to himself as he carved the words Dragon and Phoenix grocery store on the metal material. Xiao Ha, come back. Not long after, Ling Jian Yar's cold voice came from outside the courtyard. Roar, roar. Xiao Ha lay on its shoulder and roared towards the direction outside. Ha! Xiao Ha, come over. Ling Jian Yar's figure was suspended in the air. She looked at Xiao Ha, who was lying beside Wang Xian, with a surprised expression. Wasn't Xiao Ha a little afraid of him? Why did he look so intimate now? Why didn't he come over even if she called him? In the past, she would have come over as long as she called Xiao Ha softly. Awoo! Xiao Ha looked at Wang Xian with a face full of reluctance and rubbed his head against him. Chapter 1220 Dragon and Phoenix Grocery Store 2. Ling Jian was even more astonished when she saw Xiao Ha rubbing her head against Wang Xian's body reluctantly. A hint of displeasure appeared on her face. After all, Xiao Ha was her pet and her most intimate little guy. Xiao Ha, come over quickly. Ling Jian shouted again with an unhappy expression. Awoo! Xiao Ha shouted and ran towards Ling Jian. Humph! Seeing it running over, Ling Jian pinched its face with displeasure. She looked at Wang Xian curiously and asked with a straight face, Why is Xiao Ha so close to you? Wang Xian raised his head and looked at Ling Jian. He smiled faintly and said, Because I am a beast tamer. If I want to, I can even make your pet obey my orders. You. Ling Jian Yar's expression changed slightly when she heard his words. She frowned and glared at Wang Xian. Don't use your beast-taming skills on Xiao Ha. Otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite. I'm your savior. Moreover, do you think you're my opponent? Wang Xian smiled nonchalantly when he heard her words. Roar, roar, roar. Chirp, chirp. Just as Wang Xian finished his sentence, the group of ferocious beasts and demonic beasts in the courtyard started to chirp and looked at her. Ling Jian felt waves of aura and her expression changed slightly. Her gaze swept across the group of ferocious beasts and demonic beasts. Compared to the last time, there were many more ferocious beasts and demonic beasts. This was especially so for the 3-meter-long bloody evil turtle that was filled with a bloody evil aura. It's at the void interpretation level again. Her pupils constricted. Awoo, awoo. Xiao Ha, who was on her shoulder, instead barked at the group of demonic beasts. G, 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 G. A few little yen monkeys jumped to the bottom of the wall and barked at Xiao Ha. Their golden eyes stared at it. Little yen monkeys with half-step void interpretation bloodline. She looked at these monkeys and was slightly surprised. When she looked at the demonic beasts and ferocious beasts in the courtyard, her eyes suddenly lit up. She stared at the 1-meter-sized small tree beside Wang Xian. The small tree was 1 meter sized and had golden leaves. The entire small tree emitted a strong metal attribute. It emitted a golden glow and covered an area of 2 to 3 meters. Golden lotus tree. It's actually a golden lotus tree. Her eyes flickered as she recalled the precious inheritance she had obtained. Are you selling that golden lotus tree of yours? She hesitated for a moment before asking Wang Xian. Come in and tell me if you have something to say. Don't stand on the wall of my house. If you don't know, I would think that you're a thief. Wang Xian glanced at her and said indifferently. Ling Jian, Yar's expression changed slightly. She moved and landed coldly in the courtyard. She stared at the golden lotus tree and asked, Are you selling it? Yes, I'm selling everything in the entire courtyard, except for the spiritual Zileen and the blood evil turtle. Wang Xian looked at her and gestured to the chair at the side. Ling Jian stood there without moving. How much spiritual liquid? Name a price. I haven't thought about it yet. When my grocery store is open for business, I'll list the price then. Wang Xian smiled. Looking at the signboard that he had made, a satisfied expression appeared on his face. Grocery store. Ling Jian looked at him in confusion. Yes, grocery store. It's my store. I need to make some arrangements now. If you want to buy it, you can go to my store tomorrow. There might be things you need in there. Wang Xian stood up and said to her directly, Where is your grocery store? Ling Jian quickly asked. I can't really describe the exact location. It's the first day of business tomorrow. I need to go and arrange it now. Wang Xian thought for a moment and shook his head. He kept the signboard and some metal materials into his space. Keep the golden lotus tree for me. I'll go and buy it tomorrow. Ling Jian said to Wang Xian. Sure. Wang Xian nodded his head. Okay. She took a glance at Wang Xian and flew back to her own place. Hee. A golden lotus tree at the first level of the void interpretation realm can be sold at a good price. This girl is a rich lady. Wang Xian watched her disappear and revealed a smile on his face. He put away all the items and placed the group of demonic beasts into his storage spiritual bag. Then he flew directly to the shop. When he arrived at the shop, there were a lot of people around him, even at night. Wang Xian looked at the shop's door and waved his arm. He placed the brand of the Dragon and Phoenix grocery store on it. His shop was not eye-catching. It was even more insignificant when placed in the middle of the bustling human cemetery. The words grocery store seemed to be of a lower class as well. Wang Xian did not pay much attention to it and walked straight into the shop. The entire shop was extremely clean and tidy. For an expert, all he needed to do was to use a little energy to clean up all the dirt. Set up a beast pen here to sell pets. Sell weapons here, armor here, hidden weapons here, and so on. As for the formation here, there are also a few pet eggs. Wang Xian sorted out the items one by one. On the second floor, he sold items of the insightful void tier. When Wang Xian displayed the items in his interspatial ring one by one, the entire shop became even more chaotic. A few demonic beasts and ferocious beasts were shouting. Weapons, spears, clubs, and weapons were hanging haphazardly. Forget it, let's just leave it at that. I still have a lot of metal materials in my hands. I'll forge some weapons and armor sets. Wang Xian took a look around and walked to the back. He placed the blood evil turtle and the spirit purple qilin in the storage spiritual bag at the back and treated them as divine beasts. If someone came to cause trouble, he could just let the two of them go. Wang Xian thought about it and came to the third floor. The third floor was a place that he specially used to forge weapons and armor. He took out the materials one by one and started to forge them immediately. The night passed quickly. The sky was bright. Wang Xian took a look at the weapons, armor, and battle boots that he had crafted. He took them downstairs and placed them on the floor. Open for business. He revealed a faint smile and opened the door of the shop. Senior brother Ian, look, it's him, it's that guy. When Wang Xian opened the door of the shop, a young man pointed at Wang Xian at a spot not far from the street. He quickly said to Yin Xian Feng, who was beside him, "I've been looking for this fellow for half a month. I've finally found him. I've finally found him." Yin Xian Feng turned his head and looked over. His eyes were filled with killing intent as he clenched his fists tightly. His severed arm had already recovered. His eyes were filled with hatred and killing intent. "Senior brother Yin, don't be rash. His strength, his strength." The young man beside Yin Xian Feng hurriedly reminded him. They knew very well that the other party's strength was not something they could provoke. "I know." Yin Xian Feng calmed down slightly. He looked at the shop and slowly opened his mouth. "Back then, you crippled my arm and embarrassed me. In order to take revenge, I sacrificed a lot. Next, I will let you know the consequences of provoking me." His eyes flickered with a cold light as he flew directly towards the island of the Light Dragon Dynasty. Chapter 1221 Dragon and Phoenix Grocery Store 3. Wang Xian, who opened the door, didn't notice that there was someone outside who had been looking for him for a long time. He took a look at the store and sat on a chair. He poured himself a cup of tea and sat there leisurely, waiting for customers to arrive. It was estimated that Long Xiaotian would bring some people to support the store before long. When the time came, business would naturally arrive. "Young Royal Highness, this should be a newly opened shop. They didn't pay us the safety management fee." On the left of the Dragon and Phoenix grocery store, there were two shops that weren't very big. However, the third shop was much bigger. It was at least 10 times the size of Wang Xian's shop. It had a total of more than 10 floors. This was a restaurant with the words "Organ Restaurant" written on it. To be able to open a shop here with such a large area, the background of the shop was definitely not simple. Otherwise, the shop would have been torn down long ago. The force behind the Organ Restaurant was the 9-Star Dynasty. The 9-Star Dynasty was a dynasty that was not considered to be very strong. However, it was a dynasty after all, and its strength could not be underestimated. At the entrance of the Organ Restaurant, an old man stood beside a young man and whispered to him. There were 2 men and 3 women around the young man. "How many shops near our restaurant are under our control?" The young man was very fat and weighed at least 200 kilograms. He glanced around and asked impatiently, "Young Prince, the 20 shops around our restaurant are all within our range. They must pay a safety fee for opening a shop here. Each shop has 5 spirit liquids a month." The old man reported from beside him. "What, only 5 spirit liquids? 20 shops only have 100 spirit liquids every month. That's so little?" The fat youth frowned and said with a displeased expression. His expression was very unpleasant. "Young Royal Highness, 5 spirit liquids is over 1 million middle-grade spirit stones. That's not a small amount." A hint of speechlessness flashed through the old man's eyes. No wonder this young Royal Highness was sent here. "FUCK, I thought there would be a lot of spirit liquid. Let's make it 5. Let's go over. If that guy doesn't take the initiative to pay the management fee, we'll directly double the penalty. If he dares to not pay, we'll tear down his shop." The fat young man revealed an unhappy expression and directly walked forward. "Young Prince, the few of us aren't here to accompany you to collect rent. Quickly settle the matters here." A young man next to him said with a smile, All right. Let me familiarize myself with the matters here first." The fat young man looked at the few people next to him and waved his hand. The other few people behind him smiled. "Grocery store? This, young Prince, a store that sells groceries. What kind of spirit liquid can you receive?" A woman looked at the store in front of her with a funny expression. "Looks like it's another poor guy. Last time, this shop sold the meat of ferocious beasts and demonic beasts. It only lasted for a month before it closed down." The old man beside him took a look and frowned slightly. "No matter what he sells, he has to hand over the safety management fee to me." The fat young man had a fierce expression on his face as he walked into the shop aggressively. Wang Xian, who was sitting in the shop, was drinking tea with one hand while the 5 attributes of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth were dancing on his fingers with the other hand. When there were no customers, Wang Xian could practice his attribute combination combat techniques. There are customers already? Wang Xian smiled when he saw 7 people walking in from the door. What do you want to buy? Wang Xian asked faintly with a smile on his face. What do I want to buy? Don't you know that you have to pay a safety fee for opening a new shop? Just as Wang Xian finished his sentence, the plump young man who walked in aggressively raised his head and shouted coldly, Safety fee! Wang Xian was slightly taken aback. He glanced at the few people who came with ill intentions and narrowed his eyes slightly. What is a safety fee? You are the owner of this shop, right? The safety fee is just that. You open a shop here, and our organ restaurant will guarantee your safety. You know the rules here as well. If you don't have the ability to open a shop, it's normal to be robbed by others. If you pay the safety fee, you will be protected by our accordion restaurant. The old man beside the fat young man stared at Wang Xian and said faintly, Hee, I don't need your protection. If you are not here to buy things, I'll have to trouble you to get out. Wang Xian looked at them with a hint of mockery and said directly, Huh. The old man's face turned cold when he heard Wang Xian's words. He narrowed his eyes and sized him up carefully. Are you sure? Don't regret it when the time comes. If you don't have the strength, you will have to pay a heavy price to open a shop in the tomb of the demi-human. He stared at Wang Xian with a cold expression. A cold aura emanated from his body as he charged at Wang Xian without any concealment. Why are you wasting your breath on him? If he doesn't hand over the safety fee, just cripple him. The fat young man said impatiently. Roar. Gee. However, their roars and the aura that emanated from their bodies caused a few ferocious beasts in the beast pen to let out a low roar. They looked at the group of people at the door and roared. What kind of beast is this? The roars of the little yen monkey and the blood-traced turtle instantly attracted the attention of the group. When they looked over, they were slightly stunned. That golden little monkey is so beautiful. It seems to be a little yen monkey with the bloodline of a half-step void interpretation demon beast. There are actually five little yen monkeys. A girl looked at the 5 little yen monkeys with a surprised expression and sized them up with love. It's a half-step void interpretation demonic beast cub. The old man was slightly stunned, and his face was full of astonishment. The fat young man was also surprised. A seemingly low-class grocery store actually had such a treasure. They looked into the store and looked at it seriously. Weapons, armor, and even sets. Pet eggs, demon beasts, fierce beasts, array compasses, and many other strange treasures. Each item was emitting a strong energy. At least all of them were transcendent level 8 items. This made them look shocked. There were 500 to 600 items like weapons and armor, and even the lowest priced weapons cost 10 drops of spirit liquid. As for the young demonic beast, it was worth at least 10 billion middle-grade spiritual stones. This small shop sold a variety of items, but the value was beyond imagination. I didn't expect the items sold to be so precious. That's perfect. Take a young demonic beast as your safety fee for this month. The eyes of the fat young man flickered. He opened his mouth and spoke like a lion. He looked at the items around him with a hint of greed in his eyes. Didn't you hear what I just said? Scram! Wang Xian saw the greedy eyes of the few of them, and a look of disdain appeared in his eyes. Chapter 1222 Dragon and Phoenix Grocery Store 4. A cold voice came out of his mouth, causing the faces of the fat young man and the rest to turn cold instantly. Kid, this is our organ restaurant in the territory of our 9 Stars dynasty. If you don't pay the safety fee, you can forget about opening this store. In fact, you might even be robbed. The old man beside the fat young man stared at Wang Xian coldly and threatened him faintly. "Why are you still talking nonsense with him? How dare he act so arrogantly in our shop? Tear down his entire shop." The fat young man stared at Wang Xian ferociously and shouted loudly, "Haha, I agree with this. Since they don't give face to the organ restaurant, then tear it down this time. The thing's here." A young man beside him laughed out loud and squinted his eyes in agreement. A greedy look appeared in his eyes. "This is the shop that I bought. Do I still need to pay a safety fee like you guys? I finally understand that you guys are a bunch of self-righteous bandits." Wang Xian stood up slowly. A faint killing intent surged from his body. "The Nine Stars Dynasty? Hee, since you guys don't want to get lost, I can only send you guys away." As he spoke, two terrifying elemental energies condensed in his palms. "You brought this upon yourself." When the old man saw the energy in Wang Xian's hands, a killing intent surged from his body. A large saber appeared in his hands. "Kill him." The fat young man's face, which was filled with muscles, appeared a little ferocious. He growled at the old man beside him. "HMPH, you're courting death." The energy in Wang Xian's hands didn't hesitate at all. The combined combat technique, Jin Lu, was sent straight at the old man. Slash! The old man's saber glow was amplified as he slashed directly at Jin Lu. Not good. However, when the saber in his hand landed on Jin Lu, the level 9 extraordinary saber in the old man's hand actually broke apart. This caused him to be filled with extreme fear. "Retreat, little prince, retreat immediately." Without any hesitation, his body trembled as a circular energy armor floated around him. The first tier profound void tier armor that he had spent half his life savings on exploded. He pulled the fat young man's body and directly fled outside. The other 5 young men and women were slightly stunned. Shock appeared on their faces, and they fled outside in fear. The old man was the shopkeeper of the organ restaurant. He had the strength of a half-step profound void tier expert. However, he knew that he was no match for the other party with just one strike. One could imagine that the young man's strength was not something that they could deal with. Wang Xian saw that they had escaped from the shop. He frowned slightly and did not chase after them. He waved his arm and the golden flow dissipated immediately. In the shop, he did not dare to release too much strength. Otherwise, the entire shop would not be able to withstand it. I hope that all of you know your limits. If you still dare to come, don't blame me for being impolite. A cold glint flashed across Wang Xian's eyes as he looked at the spirit purple Qilin and the blood evil turtle behind him. Ziling, blood evil, lie on the left and right side of the door. If anyone dares to cause trouble, kill them immediately. Wang Xian ordered the 2 beasts that were lying in the innermost part of the door. Roar, roar. The 2 beasts let out a low roar and immediately came to the 2 sides of the door. As long as they entered the door, they would be able to see the 2 big fellows standing on both sides. If there were any troublemakers, they would have to go through the Ling Ziling and the vicious turtle first. This tomb of the humans and demons is really chaotic. Wang Xian sighed slightly. It was extremely chaotic in the battlefield of the tomb of the humans and demons. It was also extremely chaotic in the place where the humans gathered. There was no order to speak of. There were only forces holding down the forces one by one, forming a chaotic region. I have to increase my strength as soon as possible. He thought to himself, as long as his strength increased by 1 level, he would be able to fight or even kill a powerhouse at the 2nd level of the see-through void tier. Buzz. At this moment, a terrifying energy attacked the Dragon and Phoenix grocery store. Wang Xian, who was sitting in the store, had a slight change in expression. Roar! The blood evil turtle, who was lying by the door, raised its head. A violent aura was revealed in its eyes. Its cumbersome turtle shell moved slightly, and an earthy yellow energy surrounded the entire store. Boom! The terrifying sound of an explosion was heard. Wang Xian could clearly feel that the entire store was trembling. If not for the blood-evil turtle's defense, the entire store would have been turned into ruins. Wang Xian moved and appeared at the entrance. He looked at the sky coldly. "Damn you! Come and face your death." In the sky, more than 20 people were floating in front of the shop. An old man was standing in the middle. The fat young man was standing at the side. His fat face was staring at him coldly. The old man from earlier was standing at the other side. Wang Xian looked at the old man in the middle. His eyes were filled with killing intent as he slowly swept his gaze across the chubby young man and the rest. "I spared your dog lives just now. Don't even think about it this time. Shut up, you yellow-mouthed brat. How dare you attack the people of my 9 Stars Empire? Who gave you the guts?" The old man in the middle didn't make a move again. He took a deep look at the shop and sized up Wang Xian. In the tomb of the demi-human, there were as many experts as the clouds and as many as the rain. Even an expert of the see-through, void, couldn't be arrogant here. The strength of the 9-star dynasty wasn't weak, but it wasn't too strong either. Many dynasties and sects with deep foundations were stronger than them. After his attack was easily blocked, he became cautious. This shop might not be simple. "Uncle Qin, kill this reckless brat and let them know the consequences of provoking our 9 Stars Empire." Before Wang Xian could speak, the fat young man's voice, filled with killing intent, was heard. "Yes, General Qin. Kill him and tear down his shop. We must not let him off." A few other young men beside him echoed. When the old man heard the voices of the family disciples beside him, he frowned slightly and stared coldly at Wang Xian. "I'm opening a shop here, yet the trash from your 9 Stars Empire still wants to collect safety fees. What a joke!" Wang Xian stood in front of the shop and raised his head slightly. Killing intent surged in his heart. What's going on? Is there a commotion again? The people from the 9-star dynasty and the people from that shop seemed to be from the 9-star dynasty who went to that young man to collect protection fees. In the end, they were beaten up. What kind of background does this kid have? How dare he go against the 9-star dynasty? If he wants to open a shop in the graveyard of demi-humans without the ability, he can only seek protection from the powerful ones. Otherwise, he would be easily robbed. This young man is obviously in the same situation. Around the streets, there were at least tens of thousands of people looking over. All of them were smiling as they watched the commotion. Such a situation would be discovered after staying in the cemetery of demi-humans for a long time. It was not strange at all. Looks like this kid is going to be done for. What an unlucky kid. Some of them looked at the insightful emptiness realm expert in the sky and then looked at Wang Xian, who was alone below. They shook their heads slightly. Chapter 1222. Dragon and Phoenix Grocery Store 4. A cold voice came out of his mouth, causing the faces of the fat young man and the rest to turn cold instantly. "Kid, this is our organ restaurant in the territory of our 9 Stars dynasty. If you don't pay the safety fee, you can forget about opening this store. In fact, you might even be robbed." The old man beside the fat young man stared at Wang Xian coldly and threatened him faintly. "Why are you still talking nonsense with him? How dare he act so arrogantly in our shop? Tear down his entire shop." The fat young man stared at Wang Xian ferociously and shouted loudly. "Haha, I agree with this. Since they don't give face to the organ restaurant, then tear it down this time. The thing's here." A young man beside him laughed out loud and squinted his eyes in agreement. A greedy look appeared in his eyes. "This is the shop that I bought. Do I still need to pay a safety fee like you guys? I finally understand that you guys are a bunch of self-righteous bandits." Wang Xian stood up slowly. A faint killing intent surged from his body. "The 9 Stars dynasty? Hee, since you guys don't want to get lost, I can only send you guys away." As he spoke, two terrifying elemental energies condensed in his palms. You brought this upon yourself. When the old man saw the energy in Wang Xian's hands, a killing intent surged from his body. A large saber appeared in his hands. Kill him. The fat young man's face, which was filled with muscles, appeared a little ferocious. He growled at the old man beside him. HMPH, you're courting death. The energy in Wang Xian's hands didn't hesitate at all. The combined combat technique, Jin Lu, was sent straight at the old man. Slash. The old man's saber glow was amplified as he slashed directly at Jin Lu. Not good. However, when the saber in his hand landed on Jin Lu, the level 9 extraordinary saber in the old man's hand actually broke apart. This caused him to be filled with extreme fear. Retreat, little prince, retreat immediately. Without any hesitation, his body trembled as a circular energy armor floated around him. The first-tier, profound void-tier armor that he had spent half his life savings on exploded. He pulled the fat young man's body and directly fled outside. The other 5 young men and women were slightly stunned. Shock appeared on their faces, and they fled outside in fear. The old man was the shopkeeper of the organ restaurant. He had the strength of a half-step profound void-tier expert. However, he knew that he was no match for the other party with just one strike. One could imagine that the young man's strength was not something that they could deal with. Wang Xian saw that they had escaped from the shop. He frowned slightly and did not chase after them. He waved his arm, and the golden flow dissipated immediately. In the shop, he did not dare to release too much strength. Otherwise, the entire shop would not be able to withstand it. I hope that all of you know your limits. If you still dare to come, don't blame me for being impolite. A cold glint flashed across Wang Xian's eyes as he looked at the spirit purple Qilin and the blood evil turtle behind him. Ziling, blood evil, lie on the left and right side of the door. If anyone dares to cause trouble, kill them immediately. Wang Xian ordered the 2 beasts that were lying in the innermost part of the door. Roar, roar! The 2 beasts let out a low roar and immediately came to the 2 sides of the door. As long as they entered the door, they would be able to see the 2 big fellows standing on both sides. If there were any troublemakers, they would have to go through the Ling Zilin and the vicious turtle first. This tomb of the humans and demons is really chaotic. Wang Xian sighed slightly. It was extremely chaotic in the battlefield of the tomb of the humans and demons. It was also extremely chaotic in the place where the humans gathered. There was no order to speak of. There were only forces holding down the forces one by one, forming a chaotic region. I have to increase my strength as soon as possible. He thought to himself, as long as his strength increased by 1 level, he would be able to fight or even kill a powerhouse at the 2nd level of the see-through void tier. Buzz. At this moment, a terrifying energy attacked the Dragon and Phoenix grocery store. Wang Xian, who was sitting in the store, had a slight change in expression. Roar! The blood evil turtle, who was lying by the door, raised its head. A violent aura was revealed in its eyes. Its cumbersome turtle shell moved slightly, and an earthy yellow energy surrounded the entire store. Boom! The terrifying sound of an explosion was heard. Wang Xian could clearly feel that the entire store was trembling. If not for the blood evil turtle's defense, the entire store would have been turned into ruins. Wang Xian moved and appeared at the entrance. He looked at the sky coldly. Damn you! Come and face your death. In the sky, more than 20 people were floating in front of the shop. An old man was standing in the middle. The fat young man was standing at the side. His fat face was staring at him coldly. The old man from earlier was standing at the other side. Wang Xian looked at the old man in the middle. His eyes were filled with killing intent as he slowly swept his gaze across the chubby young man and the rest. I spared your dog lives just now. Don't even think about it this time. Shut up, you yellow-mouthed brat. How dare you attack the people of my 9 Stars empire? Who gave you the guts? The old man in the middle didn't make a move again. He took a deep look at the shop and sized up Wang Xian. In the tomb of the demi-human, there were as many experts as the clouds and as many as the rain. Even an expert of the see-through, void, couldn't be arrogant here. The strength of the 9 Star dynasty wasn't weak, but it wasn't too strong either. Many dynasties and sects with deep foundations were stronger than them. After his attack was easily blocked, he became cautious. This shop might not be simple. Uncle Qin, kill this reckless brat and let them know the consequences of provoking our 9 Stars empire. Before Wang Xian could speak, the fat young man's voice, filled with killing intent, was heard. Yes, General Qin. Kill him and tear down his shop. We must not let him off. A few other young men beside him echoed. When the old man heard the voices of the family disciples beside him, he frowned slightly and stared coldly at Wang Xian. I'm opening a shop here, yet the trash from your 9 Stars empire still wants to collect safety fees. What a joke! Wang Xian stood in front of the shop and raised his head slightly. Killing intent surged in his heart. What's going on? Is there a commotion again? The people from the 9 Star dynasty and the people from that shop seemed to be from the 9 Star dynasty who went to that young man to collect protection fees. In the end, they were beaten up. What kind of background does this kid have? How dare he go against the 9 Star dynasty? If he wants to open a shop in the graveyard of demi-humans without the ability, he can only seek protection from the powerful ones. Otherwise, he would be easily robbed. This young man is obviously in the same situation. Around the streets, there were at least tens of thousands of people looking over. All of them were smiling as they watched the commotion. Such a situation would be discovered after staying in the cemetery of demi-humans for a long time. It was not strange at all. Looks like this kid is going to be done for. What an unlucky kid. Some of them looked at the insightful emptiness realm expert in the sky and then looked at Wang Xian, who was alone below. They shook their heads slightly. Chapter 1224. Dragon and Phoenix Grocery Store 6. This second prince is really overbearing. Who told the people of the 9 Star dynasty to be so unscrupulous? They actually attacked a newly opened store, but unexpectedly they kicked an iron plate. That fat young man's identity shouldn't be simple. However, as long as he isn't an important prince of the 9 Star dynasty, he will die today. When the crowd heard Long Xiaotian's words, they whispered among themselves and looked at him with interest. Your Highness, the second prince, don't you have a choice? We are willing to. Shut up. You have 5 seconds to choose. Do you want to make a move or let me do it myself? The 9 Star dynasty's insightful emptiness realm expert's expression kept changing as he spoke. However, before he could finish speaking, he was directly interrupted. This caused him to clench his fists tightly, his eyes filled with helplessness. The other party's background was much stronger than theirs, and even his strength was stronger than theirs. He turned his head and stared at the fat youth with a stiff expression. At this moment, the fat youth's body was drenched in cold sweat, and his eyes were filled with endless fear. He had never thought that he would encounter such a thing in less than 2 days. He had offended the second prince of the Light Dragon dynasty, and with his current status, he would definitely become a sacrifice. His heart was filled with fear and despair. The 5 young men and women standing behind him were shivering, feeling extremely lucky. Fortunately, it was not him who was going to be killed. Haha, second brother, aren't you being too overbearing? No matter what, the other party is a 9 Star dynasty. It's not good for you to make enemies for our Light Dragon dynasty. At this moment, a voice suddenly sounded, causing the surrounding people to be stunned once again. Even the people from the 9 Star dynasty were stunned as they hurriedly looked to the side. On the left side of the street, more than 100 people were walking towards them. A young man was walking in front. He was thin and weak. He had long hair, red hair, and a pink face. He held a folding fan in his hand and looked like a scholar. Beside him stood a middle-aged man. The middle-aged man crossed his arms and scanned his surroundings with his sharp eyes. Behind him, Yin Xianfeng was staring at Wang Xian with hatred in his eyes. Behind him, the strength of more than 100 people was not weak either. This was especially so since there were more than 10 young men from the Six Element sect. This made the entire faction much stronger. However, compared to Long Xiaotian, who possessed the Black Shadow Panther, it was still a little lacking. This is the 8th prince of the Radiant Dragon Dynasty. It's the 8th prince. He's now the 8th prince of the Radiant Dragon Dynasty. In the entire Radiant Dragon Dynasty, the 1st prince, 2nd prince, 8th prince, 16th prince, and 33rd prince are all strong contenders for the throne. Now that the 2nd prince is faintly surpassing them, some of the princes might be getting anxious. The people who were watching the show whispered when they saw the 8th prince leading his subordinates. 8th brother, why do you have the time to come here if you don't develop properly? Long Xiaoyan's eyes revealed a trace of coldness when he saw his younger brother arrive, and he said coldly, as rivals for the throne, the relationship between the princes was not good. Even if they were brothers, they were not mothers. Otherwise, he would not be only 5 years younger than the 33rd prince. I came out to take a walk and saw you here, 2nd brother. As a brother, I naturally want to take a look. The 8th prince looked at Long Xiaotian with a face full of spring breeze and said with a smile. After he finished speaking, he looked at the people of the 9-star dynasty and said indifferently, Everyone, how did you offend my 2nd brother and make him so angry? Your Highness, the 8th prince. The 9-star dynasty's void interpretation expert was slightly stunned when he heard the 8th prince's words. He hurriedly cupped his hands, and a glimmer of light flashed in his eyes. A hint of life appeared on the face of the fat young man standing at the side. This friend of the 2nd prince had some friction with us, but we didn't know that he was the 2nd prince's friend, so we somewhat offended him. The 9-star dynasty's insightful emptiness realm expert immediately said, just because of a small matter? The 8th prince pretended to be surprised and said, Yes, because of this matter, we wanted to use other ways to save it, but the 2nd prince didn't agree. The insightful emptiness realm expert immediately replied, 2nd brother, this is your fault. The friends of the 9-star dynasty offended you just because they didn't know the other party was your friend, but you killed them directly. Isn't that a bit too much? As the princes of the Radiant Dragon Dynasty, we can't make enemies for the kingdom everywhere. The 8th prince looked at Long Xiaotian and glanced at Wang Xian, who was beside him. He said with a smile, The words of the 8th prince stunned the people of the 9-stars dynasty. Following that, a glint flashed in their eyes. When the people around saw this scene, they narrowed their eyes slightly. The princes of the Light Dragon Dynasty are starting a game. Although the 2nd prince is stronger, the 8th prince isn't too far behind. A game between the 2 princes. There will be a good show today. When the crowd saw this scene, they understood. The game between the 2 princes had begun. 8th brother, do I need your guidance on what I want to do? Long Xiaotian stared at him coldly and said with slight disdain, Naturally, I don't have the right to guide 2nd brother on what he wants to do. But the people of the 9-star dynasty are my friends. I can't just watch my friends get killed, right? The 8th prince stared at Long Xiaotian in a tit-for-tat manner. Your Highness, 8th prince. Thank you, Your Highness. In the future, if the 8th prince has any orders, I, Zhu Chuanliang, will definitely not refuse. When the fat young man standing at the side heard the 8th prince's words, his eyes revealed an excited expression. He hurriedly opened his mouth to express his attitude, filled with respect. Thank you, 8th prince, for helping us to stand up for ourselves. That insightful void martial expert also spoke to the eighth prince with gratitude, his eyes flickering. The battle between the two princes was actually a good thing for them. Eighth brother, it seems like you're determined to go against me today. Long Xiaotian stared at the eighth prince, his eyes flickering as he asked. You help your friend, I help my friend. I'm not going against second brother. The eighth prince shook his head, but soon after his expression also darkened. But if you want to go against my friend, I absolutely won't allow it. When he finished speaking, the atmosphere around them froze, and a murderous aura formed between them. Hee, you and I both know very well that it's not a waste of time to talk so much nonsense. In the future, don't be so weird in front of me. Just say what you want to say. Otherwise, I will treat you as just a weird trash. Long Xiaoyan's eyes were filled with disdain when he heard his words. He did not hide his disdain at all. His words caused the eighth prince, who had been smiling, to change his expression drastically. Chapter 1225 Dragon and Phoenix, Grocery Store 7. Damn, the second prince is still so domineering. Anyone with a discerning eye can tell that the eighth prince is not a friend of the 9-star dynasty at all. In the end, after saying so much, he was directly dumped by the second prince. In the beginning, the eighth prince did what he wanted to do casually, but I didn't expect the second prince to say it so directly. Eccentric? The description is really appropriate. When the surrounding people heard Long Xiaoyan's cold words and saw the eighth prince's changed expression, they all smiled. Even the subordinates behind the eighth prince felt a little uncomfortable. In the matter of martial artists, the strong should be the enemy. There was no need to be so eccentric. Humph! When the eighth prince heard Long Xiaoyan's words, his expression also turned cold when he heard the surrounding people's voices. So, I didn't want to shed all pretense of cordiality with second brother, but since you want to say it directly, just say it. That kid behind you has offended a few of my friends. As he spoke, he looked at Yin Xianfeng and the rest of the sixth element sect behind him. Your Highness, I'm sure you are aware of the enmity between your friend and me. Hee. Yin Xianfeng took a step forward and glared at Wang Xian with hatred. He said word by word, I want him dead. I want him to die. His killing intent was undisguised. He dares to hurt our senior brother Yin. He must pay a heavy price. Today he must die no matter what. Beside Yin Xianfeng, a few of his junior brothers behind him said with killing intent. Hee, eighth brother, can't you just say what's on your mind? Why are you beating around the bush for so long? Long Xiaotian stared at him coldly. Let my brother die. It's not that I look down on you, but you don't have the strength to do so. Hee, I admit that second brother is stronger than me, but it's still easy to kill him. The eighth prince narrowed his eyes and looked at the people of the 9-star dynasty. You guys go and kill that kid. Leave my second brother to me. The eighth prince's words caused the eyes of the people from the 9-star empire to flicker. They looked at the second prince and fell into deep thought. Don't worry. He won't dare to take revenge on all of you. If he does, come and find me. I, Long Xiaoyan, will keep my word. When the eighth prince saw their hesitant expressions, he spoke again. Yes, it's the eighth prince. We agree. Leave him to us. Leave that damned fellow to us. Without waiting for the insightful emptiness realm expert to agree, the fat young man, Juchuan Liang, quickly replied loudly. His face was full of muscles and was filled with ferocious excitement. All right, we believe in the eighth prince. When the insightful emptiness realm expert saw that the young prince had agreed, he nodded his head slowly with a cold expression in his eyes. His eyes were filled with killing intent as he stared at Wang Xian. Eighth brother, it seems like you want to fight with me now. Long Xiaotian frowned slightly and said to him with a solemn face, Second brother, with your current strength, you can't destroy my men. As long as I can restrain your men, that kid will naturally be killed. I promised brother Een Xianfeng that I would help him kill that kid. I will definitely do it. The eighth prince raised his head slightly and revealed a confident expression. Haha, thank you, eighth prince. In the future, I, Een Xianfeng, will fight for the eighth prince to the death. I wish you the throne. Beside him, Een Xianfeng revealed an excited expression and quickly expressed his loyalty. Second prince, no matter what, that kid must die. No one can save him. Following that, he looked at Long Xiaotian and said with a smile on his face. After that, he turned his head abruptly and stared at Wang Xian. A ferocious smile appeared on his face. No one can protect the people that our eighth prince wants to kill. The throne belongs to our eighth prince. Haha, that's right. A brat. We can kill him if we want to. No one can stop us. The throne belongs to the eighth prince. Behind the eighth prince, his subordinates raised the weapons in their hands and shouted confidently. Haha, with all of you brothers, I also believe that the throne belongs to me. The eighth prince laughed loudly and said confidently, Do it! Clang, clang, clang. When he finished speaking, the subordinates behind him pulled out the weapons in their hands. The eighth prince looked at the people from the Nine Stars dynasty. The Nine Stars dynasty's insightful emptiness realm experts naturally knew what they should do now. At this point, they had no way out. If they didn't make a move, they would definitely die. They didn't hesitate at all and stared at Wang Xian with murderous intent. Second brother, if you dare to help your friend, I will help my friend too. Think about it, even though my subordinates aren't as strong as you. However, our brothers from the Nine-Star Empire are very strong. Hee hee. The eighth prince shrugged his shoulders and looked at Long Xiaotian with a smile. Second prince, our Nine-Star Empire doesn't want to be your enemy. I hope you won't make things difficult for us. The insightful void martial artist from the Nine-Star Empire said faintly. Long Xiaotian frowned when he saw this scene. The more than 200 subordinates behind him also looked at him. All right, leave it to me. Wang Xian patted Long Xiaotian's shoulder and said calmly, How is it? Brother Wang Xian, you don't have to worry. I can protect you. Long Xiaotian frowned slightly and asked, Are you still worried about me? Wang Xian revealed a smile on his face. Long Xiaotian smiled when he saw Wang Xian smile. He immediately raised one of his arms and looked in the direction of the eighth prince. Watch them closely. If any of them dares to move, kill them immediately. Long Xiaotian shouted loudly. Yes. The subordinates behind him immediately shouted loudly. The eighth prince felt the imposing manner of the other party. Instead, a smile appeared on his face. Don't worry, second brother. As long as you don't make a move, I will definitely not make a move. Hee hee, I thought that second brother would fight with me for the sake of his friend. As he spoke, he didn't forget to hit Long Xiaotian's prestige. Long Xiaotian's nonchalant lips curled up slightly. He looked at Wang Xian beside him, and a look of confidence flashed across his eyes. Kill that fellow for me. Tear him into pieces. When Een Xianfeng saw that the second prince did not make a move, he revealed an excited expression. As long as the second prince did not make a move, with the strength of the people from the Nine Stars dynasty, the Jedi could easily kill Wang Xian. Although he could not kill him with his own hands, he would die because he provoked him. As long as he saw his death, he, Een Xianfeng, would get his revenge. He was delighted. The people from the Nine Stars dynasty narrowed their eyes slightly and gripped their weapons tightly. They stared at Wang Xian and were ready to attack. Chapter 1226 Dragon and Phoenix Grocery Store 8. The game is over. It seems that the eighth prince has the upper hand this time. The eighth prince has teamed up with the people of the Nine-Star dynasty to eliminate one of the battle teams of the second prince. I didn't expect that the eighth prince would have the upper hand this time. That young man is going to be finished. He will be the sacrifice between the two princes. Why does it look like the second prince isn't worried about that young man? Could it be that the young man has a way to deal with him? A way? Could it be that he can deal with the experts of the 9-star dynasty? There's an existence at the first level of the profound void tier. The surrounding people saw the final situation and discussed in low voices. In the Light Dragon Dynasty's prince assessment, the princes could fight each other, but there was a very strict rule that only subordinates could fight. Brothers and sisters were absolutely not allowed to kill each other. This was a rule that had been passed down from the Light Dragon Dynasty. No matter how many of the prince's subordinates died, the dynasty would not care about it. However, there must not be any casualties between the princes. Once a prince offended them, the punishment would be more severe than expected. The selection of the crown prince was absolutely fair and impartial, with all the forces of the Light Dragon Dynasty watching over them. There would definitely not be any injustice. However, the competition between the princes was also very intense. For example, if they were to fight now apart from the two princes, no one could guarantee that they would be able to survive. They would usually not fight until the end. The 8th prince also saw this point. Therefore, even though he was not as strong as the 2nd prince, he still dared to fight against him. Don't worry, we will definitely not let him off. Do it, everyone, do it. The chubby young man, Zhu Chuanliang, looked at Yin Xianfeng. He responded with a ferocious expression and looked at Wang Xian sinisterly. You want to kill me? You wanted to kill me just now. In a while, I will tear you into pieces and make you wish you were dead. Ha ha! A twisted smile appeared on his face as he roared loudly. Just now, he had experienced a life-and-death situation. If not for the sudden appearance of the 8th prince, he might have already died. Everything was because of this fellow. It was all because of him that he almost caused his own death. Now, it was time for him to take revenge. He wanted to make his life worse than death. Good, good. Yin Xianfeng looked at Zhu Chuanliang with a smile on his face. Then he fixed his gaze on Wang Xian. The 8th prince looked at this scene with a smile. Just like the discussions of the people around him, he had won this game. With the help of the power of the 9 Stars dynasty, he could kill one of his 2nd brother's powerful subordinates. As for the young man who could defeat Yin Xianfeng, he didn't care about him at all. His only opponents were the other princes. As for their subordinates, he didn't care about them at all. He could kill a person with no background as he pleased. Attack! The 9 Stars dynasty's insightful void martial artist stared at Wang Xian and gave the order to attack in a deep voice. In the surroundings, the weapons of the 9 Stars dynasty's experts instantly gathered together to attack. Do you really think that I'm so easy to bully? Wang Xian saw that everyone around him had a look of death on their faces, and a hint of mockery appeared in his eyes. Die! Just as he finished his sentence, the experts from the 9 Stars dynasty around him attacked Wang Xian directly. Wang Xian stood there, and the mockery in his eyes became even more intense. Roar! Just as the attacks were about to land on Wang Xian, a low roar was heard. An earthy yellow energy covered Wang Xian completely. The attacks, including those from a half-step void interpretation stage powerhouse, did not even cause a ripple when they landed on him. Everyone was slightly stunned and revealed a look of astonishment on their faces. The people from the 9 Stars dynasty, Yin Xianfeng, and the 8th prince were also slightly surprised. They quickly looked towards the Dragon and Phoenix grocery store. Roar! Roar! At this moment, another low roar was heard. The voice was extremely dull and rang in everyone's ears. Everyone was slightly shocked. Even the 9 Star dynasty's insightful emptiness realm experts' pupils shrunk slightly. A ferocious beast walked out from the store. It was 3 meters tall, and its body was flashing with purple lightning. It had 2 huge fangs and looked extremely ferocious. Its eyes were blood red. It swept its cold gaze across everyone around and slowly walked towards Wang Xian. However, this was not the end. When the ferocious lightning beast walked out, a turtle-like creature that was 3 meters in size crawled out. Its entire body was blood-red and was filled with a strong, murderous aura. Everyone was familiar with this ferocious beast, the blood evil turtle. Similarly, it walked straight towards Wang Xian. The two ferocious beasts were very fast. In the blink of an eye, they arrived beside Wang Xian, one on the left and one on the right. They raised their heads slowly and stared at the group of people who were attacking Wang Xian. Hiss! At this moment, Long Xiaotian, who was beside Wang Xian, inhaled a breath of cold air. Bai Qingshan the elder and the group of people riding the black shadow leopard beside Long Xiaotian widened their eyes slightly. They stared at the two ferocious beasts in disbelief. Ling Zilin, they all knew that it was a ferocious beast at the first level of the see-through realm. As for the blood evil tortoise, this was the first time they had seen it. The level of this blood evil tortoise was very familiar to those who had stayed in the human demon graveyard for a long time. This was because the blood evil tortoise had appeared in the sea of the human demon graveyard. A blood evil tortoise at the first level of the see-through realm. Another blood evil tortoise at the first level of the see-through realm. Including Ling Zilin, there were a total of 2 subordinates at the first level of the see-through realm. This was simply too crazy. Long Xiaoyan's eyes flickered as he looked at Wang Xian. He exchanged a glance with Bai Qingshan and the elder beside him. Both of them could see the shock in each other's eyes. A month ago, Wang Xian only had one ferocious beast of the first level of the see-through realm. However, a month later, he obtained another ferocious beast of the first level of the see-through realm. Moreover, this blood evil turtle was obviously obtained from the sea of the demi-human graveyard. In just a short month, he had an additional ferocious beast pet of the first level of the see-through realm under his command. This made Long Xiaotian feel ashamed. He was the prince of the Radiant Dragon Dynasty. The strength of his subordinates was not even as strong as Wang Xian's 2 pets. This thigh is really thick and strong. A hint of excitement flashed across Long Xiaoyan's eyes as a smile appeared on his face. What is that? At this moment, everyone's attention was focused on the 2 ferocious beasts beside Wang Xian. The earthy yellow defense earlier was clearly released by the blood evil turtle. They were almost certain of the blood evil turtle's strength. The first level of the void interpretation stage. As for the other one, although he didn't exude his aura, he was able to walk out together with the blood evil turtle. Presumably, everyone's faces turned solemn gradually. The pupils of the see-through realm expert from the 9 Stars Empire shrunk slightly. Clearly, he had thought of this as well. Do you really think that I am someone that you can kill as you please? Wang Xian looked at them with a mocking expression. Kill them. Chapter 1227 Dragon and Phoenix Grocery Store 9. Kill them. When Wang Xian's voice rang out, the 2 ferocious beasts beside him immediately moved. At this moment, a terrifying aura was emitted from the bodies of the 2 ferocious beasts. That was the terrifying aura of an insightful emptiness realm expert. Exploding purple lightning. The terrifying bloody aura. Roar, roar. Roar, roar. Ling Zilin and the blood evil turtle roared in a deep voice, and their figures instantly disappeared. Their icy cold eyes stared intently at the profound void tier expert from the 9 Star Dynasty. Boom, boom! The figures of the 2 beasts disappeared, and they charged over with terrifying pressure. The instant they charged towards the profound void tier expert, the purple lightning from Ling Zilin's purple lightning struck everyone from the 9 Star Dynasty. Crackle! The purple lightning contained a terrifying killing intent. In an instant, the people surrounding them, including the half-step void interpretation expert, were charred black. They didn't even have the time to resist. They didn't even let out a scream and were instantly killed. This was the terror of the void interpretation beasts. What? The moment the two beasts attacked, the Nine-Star Dynasty's void interpretation expert revealed a terrifying expression. His expression changed, and his forehead was covered in cold sweat. Two insightful Void Tier 1 beasts. He actually had two insightful Void Tier 1 beasts. This. Standing behind the insightful Void Tier expert. Zhu Chuanliang's body instantly became incomparably cold, as if he had entered an ice cellar. He widened his eyes, staring at the two beasts in front of him in disbelief. No, how could this be? How could... He shook his head, his body trembling. Two rank, one void interpretation beasts. Two rank, one void interpretation beasts. The other 5 young men and women were also filled with fear. Ah! The Nine-Star Dynasty Void Interpretation expert, who was locked onto by the two void interpretation beasts, gritted his teeth, and a golden blade appeared in his hand and slashed at them. Boom! A terrifying sound of collisions sounded. However, the attacks of the Nine-Star Dynasty Void Interpretation expert didn't stop the attacks of the two beasts. Ling Zillian's strength was already at the peak of the first level of the insightful void stage. As for the other blood evil turtle, it had lived in the blood spirit cave for 2,000 to 3,000 years. When Wang Xian encountered it, it was extremely weak. However, after a few days of recovery, it had already returned to its peak. Just by relying on the accumulation of time, the blood evil turtle was already at the peak of its bloodline. Two ferocious beasts at the peak of the first level of the insightful void stage could definitely suppress an ordinary expert at the first level of the insightful void stage. Oh no, escape! Otherwise I'll die here. The void interpretation stage expert from the Nine-Star Dynasty was filled with fear as his eyes flashed. He wanted to think of a way to escape. Roar! However, at this moment, earthen yellow walls that were 1,000 meters wide suddenly appeared in all directions. These earthen yellow walls completely sealed the surroundings. FUCK, quickly retreat. It's the blood evil turtle's avatar. The earth is sealed, and it used its avatar the moment it appeared. It wants to kill the Nine-Star Dynasty's void interpretation realm experts. 2 level 1 void interpretation realm beasts. My god, that youth actually has 2 level 1 void interpretation realm pets. This is too terrifying. FUCK, the reversal is too fast. That youth already has extremely terrifying strength. Just now, this group of people actually decided this person's life and death. What a joke. This 9-star dynasty didn't just kick an iron plate, it kicked an iron plate. It might as well directly kill that fatty young man and get it over with. Now it's going to be even worse. When the surrounding crowd saw the earthen yellow wall that was suspended in a radius of 2 kilometers, a shocked expression appeared on their faces. Some people hurriedly fled into the distance, while others flew into the sky to watch the battle inside. Not good. The 9-star dynasty's insightful emptiness realm expert's expression was extremely gloomy, and a trace of panic appeared in his eyes. How could it be? Yin Xianfeng, who was at the 8th prince's and the others' position, saw this scene. His eyes widened, and his expression was filled with disbelief. He clenched his teeth tightly, and his fists were clenched tightly. How could that fellow, who was certain to die, have 2 first-level insightful emptiness realm beasts as pets? He could not believe it. He could not believe it at all. The 8th prince, who was standing at the front, was also in a daze. He stared at the 2 ferocious beasts in a daze. Ha. 8th brother. Do you think that Brother Wang Xian is my subordinate? Do you think that you have won this game? At this moment, Long Xiaotian could not help but burst into laughter when he saw the 8th prince and the expressions of the people behind him. When the 8th prince heard his laughter, he turned his head around with a gloomy face. 8th brother. Brother Wang Xian is not my subordinate. I don't have the qualifications to take in such a subordinate. His strength is not inferior to yours or mine. Long Xiaotian stared at him and revealed a smile on his face. With Brother Wang Xian's strength, he doesn't need my help at all. You are simply courting death by using him to gamble with me. When the 8th prince heard Long Xiaotian's words, his expression changed constantly. Damn it, damn it, damn it. From behind, Yin Xianfeng's continuous low growls made him extremely frustrated. He clenched his fists tightly and watched the battle in the sky with a gloomy face. Crackle, crackle. The terrifying lightning struck toward the 9-star Empire's insightful void martial artist. In the sky, an area of 2 kilometers was completely covered by the purple lightning. In the midst of the lightning, there were also terrifying earth spikes and earth mountains that attacked him from time to time. He was trapped in the virtual image land and could not escape at all. Now that he was facing the attacks of 2 top-grade, insightful emptiness realm level 1 ferocious beasts, he was completely suppressed. In fact, he did not even have the strength to resist. He could only resist and resist. 8th prince, he won't be able to hold on for long. He will die. The middle-aged man standing next to the 8th prince frowned and said to Wang Xian, Phew, I didn't expect that. I didn't expect that he would befriend such a young man. The 8th prince felt a lump in his chest. The 2nd prince was stronger than him to begin with. Now that he had befriended such a young man, even though he wasn't his subordinate, he could still be of great help. Under such circumstances, the 2nd prince's strength would be even stronger. Ah, right at this moment, the sound of that insightful void martial artist screaming in pain came from the sky. His chest had been struck by the purple lightning, and it had turned completely black. His hair had spread out, and half of it had been struck by the lightning. His entire person looked incomparably miserable. Within a short period of time, he had already suffered heavy injuries. I'll fight it out with you. His eyes were filled with a trace of despair as he struggled. The long saber in his hand shook, and a 10-meter long golden saber appeared around him. Dharma idol, golden saber Huan Yu. Roar, roar. When Ling Zilin saw his Dharma idol, his front hooves slightly raised as he lightly stepped in the air, emitting a terrifying sound. Chapter 1228 Dragon and Phoenix Grocery Store 10. Aspect: Purple thunder striding through the air. The supernatural ability of the spirit Zilin. Wang Xian had a deep understanding of the supernatural ability of the spirit Zilin. Even when facing the territory of fire, it was able to stomp it to pieces. Dong dong dong! A dull sound rang out. It was as deafening as spring thunder. Purple thunderbolts gathered under the front hooves of the spirit Zilin. Terrifying energy filled the surroundings. If they were not in the sky, if they were not surrounded by the earth-sealing aspect, they would have been able to destroy everything within a 5 to 6 kilometer radius. Die! The 9-star dynasty's insightful void martial artist revealed a desperate expression. Around him, more than 10-meter-long crimson gold blades revolved around him, directly attacking Ling Zilin and the blood-evil turtle. When the 2 beasts saw his attack, their eyes were still filled with ferocity and violence. Roar! Roar! Ling Zilin charged forward. His front hooves stepped in the air, and lightning tore through the air. From afar, it seemed as if space had split apart. The blood-evil turtle also roared, and the surrounding earth-sealing aspect rapidly pressed over. Earth-sealing not only had the ability to seal space, but it could also unleash terrifying attacks. Otherwise, it could not be called a divine ability. 1. 3 Dharma images and 3 terrifying attacks charged forward at a terrifying speed. Everyone in the surroundings watched this scene with shocked expressions. Even on those large buildings, many experts at the profound void tier were standing on them, coldly watching the battle over here. A battle at the profound void tier, and one that required one to fight to the death, was not something that could be seen frequently in the Ladyboy graveyard. Every profound void tier expert cherished their lives very much. Without absolute confidence, two profound void tier experts rarely faced each other in life and death. Moreover, it was somewhat difficult to kill a profound void tier expert. If the other expert were to escape with his life, it would be very difficult to kill a profound void tier expert. But here, there was clearly some surprise. Two level 1 profound void tier dire beasts against an ordinary profound void tier expert. Most importantly, the blood fiend turtle's earth sealing divine ability. This ability was most powerful in terms of defense and sealing. Die, 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 die. Boom, boom, boom. Purple lightning stepped into the air. Earth sealing. Golden blade Huanyu. Purple lightning stepped into the air and clashed with golden blade Huanyu, emitting a terrifying aura of destruction. The 9-star Dynasty Void Interpretation expert revealed a crazed expression. If he couldn't block this attack, he would die. The golden blade Huanyu and the purple lightning stomp collided, and the two terrifying energies quickly dissipated. More than 10 golden blades quickly dissipated. It's over. At this moment, what made the 9-star Dynasty's Void Interpretation expert despair was that the Earth Seal's attack had arrived. The Earth Seal used 4,000-meter thick earth walls to press towards the enemy. As it pressed down, the Earth Seal became smaller and smaller, finally forming a thick yellow earth stone. Under the control of the Blood Evil Turtle, the earth stone passed through the side of the spirit Purple Qilin and directly pressed down on the Insightful Emptiness Realm expert. The 9-star Dynasty Insightful Emptiness Realm expert, who was already at a disadvantage, was once again struck by the Earth Seal. The golden blade quickly collapsed. Ah! An unwilling scream sounded out, but it quickly stopped. The 9-star Dynasty's Insightful Void Tier Powerhouse directly collapsed. Dead. The death of the Insightful Void Tier Powerhouse caused the fat youth, Zhu Chuanliang, who was standing at the side, to look ashen. Behind him, the 5 young men and women who were still alive also had expressions of despair. Since the Insightful Void Tier Powerhouse was dead, what strength did they have to resist? None at all. They looked at Zhu Chuanliang, who was standing in front of them, with a savage expression. If it weren't for this damned fellow, if they had killed this damned fat pig just now, how could they have faced such a situation? They hated him. Crackle, crackle! Just as Zhu Chuanliang and the other 3 were filled with despair, the lightning of death had already arrived. Ling Zilin flicked his tail disdainfully, and a bolt of purple lightning landed directly on the 6 of them. However, there were 7 or 8 extraordinary realm cultivators, and even 6 realm cultivators who died under Ling Zilin's lightning. It was as if they had never been to this world before. It's over. When the surrounding people saw the scene, they were slightly shocked. They saw 2 incomparably savage beasts come to the side of the young man, and their eyes flickered. Some of them looked at the unimpressive grocery store behind them. The name of the Dragon and Phoenix grocery store also caught the attention of many people. Ha, good, good. Brother Wang Xian, these 2 ferocious beasts of yours are really powerful. Long Xiaoyan's eyes were slightly shocked when he saw an insightful, void martial artist being killed on the spot. He said loudly with a face full of joy, "They are the ones who are courting death. They came to my shop to collect fees, and even wanted to take my things." Wang Xian shook his head lightly and said, "They deserve to die. However, other than them, there are also some people who deserve to die." As Long Xiaotian spoke, he turned his head and looked at Yin Xianfeng and the rest behind the 8th prince. His eyes were filled with mockery. Wang Xian also turned his head and looked over with a smile. Humph. Yin Xianfeng's expression was extremely awkward. He turned his head and looked to the side. He, impressive, impressive. This brother Wang Xian's strength is really impressive. I'm sorry for offending you just now. When the 8th prince saw Long Xiaotian with his head held high and a cold smile on his face, His expression was also extremely awkward. He took a deep breath and cupped his hands at Wang Xian. "Let's go." As he spoke, he shouted with a solemn face. He turned around and was about to leave. When Long Xiaotian saw the 8th prince leaving with an embarrassed expression, he was in a great mood and felt extremely happy. "8th prince, did I ask you to leave?" At this moment, a voice suddenly sounded. Long Xiaotian, who was at the side, was slightly stunned. He looked at Wang Xian, who was beside him, in astonishment. Even the 8th prince, who had just taken 2 steps, froze. "What? You're such a brother? Do you still want to keep me here?" The 8th prince turned his head slowly with a gloomy face. His eyes were staring at Wang Xian as he said coldly, "Are you here to kill me and still want to return safely?" Wang Xian looked at the 8th prince's cold gaze and smiled. He walked forward slowly until he was about 100 meters away from the 8th prince. Beside him, Ling Zilin and the Blood Evil Turtle were following him. Their bloodthirsty and brutal eyes were staring at the 8th prince and the rest. Ha 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 ha. When the 8th prince heard Wang Xian's words, he suddenly burst into laughter. He stared at Wang Xian, and his smile slowly disappeared. His eyes turned cold. "You won't let me return safely? Do you have the ability to do so? Do you have the ability to touch me? Do you have the right to touch me?" The 8th prince pointed at Wang Xian with disdain in his eyes. So what if he had 2 beasts at the insightful void tier? Chapter 1229, in terms of killing and humiliation. The Light Dragon Dynasty was the strongest force in the entire Luhai region apart from the Blood Flow Empire. There were only a handful of forces that could be compared to them. As one of the princes that the king valued the most, if they wanted to touch him, it would undoubtedly be a slap to the face of the entire Light Dragon Dynasty. Especially during the selection of the crown prince, even Long Xiaotian, who was the prince, didn't dare to touch him, let alone others. He did not know about Wang Xian's background, but he firmly believed in the strength of his background. Faced with Wang Xian's words, his face was filled with disdain and a cold smile. What is that young man trying to do? Could he be targeting the 8th prince? I don't think so. After all, he is the prince of the Radiant Dragon Empire. If he dares to touch the 8th prince, the entire Radiant Dragon Empire will not let him off. No matter how strong he is, it's useless. He must be dissatisfied with the 8th prince's actions just now and wants to vent his anger. When the surrounding people saw what Wang Xian said, they were astonished. All of them stared at Wang Xian with flickering eyes. "Brother Wang Xian, although my 8th brother is annoying, I really can't touch him." Long Xiaotian frowned slightly and said to Wang Xian. He was really afraid that Wang Xian would act on impulse. Wang Xian took a glance at Long Xiaotian and smiled. He turned his head to look at the 8th prince again and patted the 2 ferocious beasts beside him. His gaze turned cold as he said, "The prince of the Guanglong dynasty is very powerful. Hee, I can't do anything to you." But as Wang Xian spoke, his eyes were filled with killing intent. He stared at Yin Xianfeng and the rest of the 6 Element sect and said, "Today I want them to die. 8th prince, let me tell you today, if you kill Yin Xianfeng and the rest before me, today's matter will be over. If not, if not, what do you dare to do? Arrogant, what an arrogant fellow." When the 8th prince heard Wang Xian's words, he was extremely furious. He revealed a ferocious expression and shouted loudly, "If not, all your subordinates will die except for you." Wang Xian stared at him indifferently as he spoke. Roar, roar. When he finished speaking, the 2 ferocious beasts beside him didn't hesitate at all. One bolt of lightning and one earth spike after another attacked the subordinates behind the 8th prince. Without any warning, they attacked directly. The middle-aged man standing beside the 8th prince's face changed, and the majestic power on his body shook. He waved his arm, and a golden screen directly blocked in front of him. blocking the attacks of the spirit purple Qilin and the blood-evil turtle. Roar, roar! The blood-evil turtle's body moved, and it directly flew into the sky. Its pair of bloodshot eyes stared below, ready to attack at any time. The eighth prince's face changed greatly, and the expressions of the subordinates behind him also changed drastically. Yin Xianfeng and the others widened their eyes. Damn, is he threatening the eighth prince? How dare he? This is too violent. He wants to directly deal with the eighth prince's subordinates. Isn't he afraid that the eighth prince will take revenge on him after he inherits the throne? The pupils of the surrounding people shrank slightly when they saw the scene, and their faces revealed shock. He had directly confronted the eighth prince. This was too violent. If the eighth prince really had a chance to ascend to the throne in the future, he would definitely suffer his revenge. No one dared to offend the prince of the Light Dragon dynasty to such an extent. They didn't show any mercy at all. Long Xiaotian, who was at the side, was also slightly stunned. His eyes flickered. You! How dare you! When the eighth prince heard Wang Xian's words, his expression changed drastically. His eyes were filled with killing intent as he stared at Wang Xian and roared furiously. You dare! Hee, I'll give you 10 seconds. Either you kill Yin Xianfeng and the rest immediately and throw them to my side, or it'll depend on the luck of all your subordinates. Let's see how many of them can walk out of this place alive. Wang Xian stared at the eighth prince with a cold gaze. His face was filled with disdain. 10, 9, 8, 7. After Wang Xian finished speaking, without any hesitation, he started the countdown of 10 seconds. When the countdown started, the eighth prince's face was filled with horror. When he heard Wang Xian's voice, he gritted his teeth. However, looking at his cold expression, he could feel the killing intent in the eyes of the two ferocious beasts. He didn't doubt what Wang Xian said at all. Eighth prince! The expression of the insightful void martial artist who was standing beside the eighth prince changed slightly. He had witnessed the battle prowess of the two beasts with his own eyes. Even if they couldn't use their Dharma idol after the battle, if the two demonic beasts wanted to deal with them, if one of the beasts could restrain him, the remaining people would be slaughtered by the other beast. Without him around, the subordinates behind the eighth prince would be slaughtered easily. When the eighth prince heard the words of the middle-aged man beside him, he turned his head stiffly with an uncertain expression on his face. Ha ha! Eighth brother, you don't have to be afraid. If this brother of mine really makes a move, I'm afraid of hurting you by accident. Come to me, and I will protect you. At this moment, Long Xiaotian's gloating voice was heard. He didn't expect Wang Xian to dare to be so tough on his younger brother. However, when he saw this scene, he was in a great mood. No matter what happened today, his younger brother was going to suffer a heavy loss today. When the eighth prince heard the mocking voice, he clenched his fists tightly. 5, 4, 3. Wang Xian's voice was still ringing in his ears. Eighth prince! Behind the eighth prince, Yin Xianfeng's face was filled with fear. He shouted softly and stared at Wang Xian with bloodshot eyes. Let me tell you, if you dare to kill me, the people of our Six Elements sect will definitely not let you off. 1. When Yin Xianfeng's face was filled with malevolence as he roared loudly. When Wang Xian's last word fell. When the two ferocious beasts were about to attack. The insightful void martial artist who was standing beside the eighth prince moved. A huge axe appeared in his hand. He waved it gently and landed directly on Yin Xianfeng's body. The terrifying golden light directly submerged him. Following closely, the golden light covered the group behind him. The group of senior and junior brothers who followed Yin Xianfeng died immediately. When the surrounding people saw this scene, their hearts trembled violently. The eighth prince actually killed his subordinates, Yin Xianfeng and the others who had pledged allegiance to him. One had to know that Yin Xianfeng was a heaven's chosen. If he killed a heaven's favorite who had pledged allegiance to him, who would dare to pledge allegiance to him in the future, who would dare to be his subordinate. Although everyone understood that this was something the eighth prince had no choice but to do, killing him was still killing him. This had already become a huge stain. The eighth prince's subordinates were slightly silent. The eighth prince's body was slightly trembling. He lowered his head, and his eyes were extremely red. The discussions around him entered his ears once again. He could feel the mocking smile on his second brother's face. He was unwilling to accept this. Brother Yin Xianfeng, don't worry. I, Long Xiaoyan, will definitely pay you back tenfold for today's grudge. He raised his head abruptly and looked at the corpses behind him as he growled in a low voice. He looked at Wang Xian once again and grinned. Are you satisfied now? Chapter 1230. Killed and Humiliated. Are you satisfied now? He stared at Wang Xian, and his eyes were filled with a sinister look. Everyone could feel the ice-cold chill that the eighth prince had towards Wang Xian. The grin on his face was as though he wanted to devour Wang Xian. The eighth prince is now a sworn enemy of that young man. That's right. The moment there's a chance, the eighth prince will definitely kill that young man. The surrounding people whispered as they looked at the eighth prince's expression. Even Long Xiaoqian's expression was slightly solemn. In the Radiant Dragon Empire, the few princes who were comparable to him all had powerful backgrounds. A prince who was enraged was extremely terrifying. Today, he was forced by Wang Xian to kill his subordinates in public. It was impossible for him not to take revenge. As a prince, he couldn't afford to lose face. When Wang Xian saw the murderous look in his eyes and the determination on his face, a cold smile slowly appeared on his face. Not satisfied. 3 words came out of his mouth. Beside Wang Xian, waves of aura rose. What? When Wang Xian said these 3 words, everyone was slightly stunned. Even the eighth prince's face, which was filled with killing intent, was a little stiff. Ha ha, eighth prince, since you want to avenge your dead brother, you might as well take more revenge. Wang Xian stared at the eighth prince coldly and laughed out loud. Idiot! Since you want me to pay you back tenfold, I will make you suffer 10 times more. Kill for me. Wang Xian waved his hand and ordered. Roar! 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 With that order, the 2 beasts didn't hesitate at all and attacked the eighth prince and his men. At this moment, the eighth prince was completely stunned. Everyone around was stunned. Even Long Xiaotian opened his mouth slightly. Since we have offended him, we should offend him more thoroughly. It's best to beat him to death. This young man is not simple-minded. Around them, an insightful emptiness realm expert who was watching the show from a building had a glint in his eyes as he commented indifferently. Qing Shan, go and fetch my good brother over. Don't let him get hurt. Long Xiaotian's eyes flickered as he said to Bai Qingshan, who was standing at the side with a smile on his face. It's the second prince. Bai Qingshan took a deep look at Wang Xian and flew toward the eighth prince. Your Royal Highness, the eighth prince, come over here. Don't get hurt. As he spoke, he waved his arm. A surge of energy wrapped around the eighth prince and pulled him over. You, how dare you? Stop. If you dare to kill my men, I, Long Xiaoyan, swear that I will not let you off. Stop. The eighth prince regained his senses and roared at Wang Xian with bloodshot eyes. He was filled with killing intent. Wang Xian stared at him. A hint of killing intent flashed in his eyes. You better shut up, Your Highness the eighth prince. You. Sensing Wang Xian's killing intent, the eighth prince clenched his teeth tightly. His teeth were almost crushed. Ah! A scream came from the side, causing the eighth prince to turn his head with bloodshot eyes. His heart was bleeding. On the battlefield, the blood evil turtle was locked onto the insightful emptiness realm expert. It did not make a move. Ling Zilin was crazily slaughtering the 8th prince's subordinates at the side. How could that group of warriors who had not reached the insightful emptiness realm be a match for an insightful emptiness realm vicious beast? Every strike killed more than 10 people. The insightful emptiness realm expert who was standing there was filled with helplessness. He knew that the 8th prince had provoked a ruthless person this time. The other party wanted to completely kill all his subordinates. He had painstakingly built up over 100 subordinates and used an entire year's time. He had used almost half of his assets. However, he had been annihilated in one move. The death of these subordinates represented that the 8th prince's influence had been reduced to the extreme. It was possible that any of the weaker princes would be stronger than his influence. In this assessment, it would be 10 times more difficult for the 8th prince to stand out. The insightful void martial artist did not move, and neither did the blood evil turtle. He knew that the opponent's goal was to kill all of the 8th prince's subordinates. He was doomed, completely doomed. 8th brother, go back to the palace. Go back to the palace and have a good time. Long Xiaotian looked at the 8th prince's number of subordinates, decreasing rapidly. His face was full of smiles as he spoke to him indifferently. The 8th prince didn't say anything with his blood-red eyes. Instead, he stared at Wang Xian with hatred. In less than 2 minutes, the miserable shrieks had completely ended. Ling Zilin swept his gaze across the surroundings and walked towards Wang Xian with his head slightly raised. The blood evil turtle also slowly crawled over. The Dragon and Phoenix grocery store is opening today. Thank you for the congratulatory gift from His Highness, the 8th Prince. Wang Xian scanned his surroundings and looked at the tens of thousands of people gathered around him. He let out a light shout with a smile on his face. When the 8th Prince heard Wang Xian's words, he couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of fresh blood. He almost fainted. When he came, he was aggressive. He led more than 100 subordinates and looked as though he was confident of killing Wang Xian. However, all of his subordinates were killed. There was only one insightful, void martial artist and himself. There was a hint of despair in his dispirited expression. How could he still be as high-spirited as before? It could be said that today the 8th Prince of the Light Dragon Empire was humiliated by that young man. Everyone around looked at the 8th Prince, then at Wang Xian, and finally at the Dragon and Phoenix grocery store. All of this was because of this small store. When the crowd saw that the matter was over, they dispersed immediately. They were all discussing this matter excitedly. At the same time, a young man with 2 ferocious beasts and a dragon and Phoenix grocery store entered the sight of many people. And today's matter would definitely become a joke for the next period of time. The crowd dispersed. Wang Xian gestured to Long Xiaotian and walked into the shop. Awolo awu. At this moment, a cry was heard. Following that, Wang Xian sensed a figure flying towards him. Wang Xian looked over, and Xiaoha flew onto his shoulder, excitedly. 3-eyed spiritual dog pup. Long Xiaotian looked at the pet that flew onto Wang Xian and revealed a hint of shock on his face. He sized up Xiaoha carefully. A beauty is here. Wang Xian raised his head and looked ahead. Yes, Ling Jian saw Xiaoha flying directly onto Wang Xian's shoulder. Her expression was a little ugly as she replied indifferently, "Let's go." Wang Xian didn't mind such a cold face. In his opinion, this was a rich lady. As he spoke, he grabbed Xiaoha in his hand and walked straight into the Dragon and Phoenix grocery store. However, Long Xiaotian, who was standing beside Wang Xian, was stunned when he saw Ling Jian Yar's figure. He widened his eyes and was filled with shock. When the 8th Prince saw Ling Jian, he was also slightly stunned. He looked at her and then at Wang Xian. His expression was even uglier. Chapter 1231. On top of the shocking grocery store. Wang Xian walked straight into the store. Long Xiaotian would occasionally turn his head and glance at Ling Jian, who was following him. His eyes were sparkling. Bai Qingshan and the old man followed closely behind. Their eyes were also filled with astonishment. They waved at the people behind them and followed them into the Dragon and Phoenix grocery store. After entering the store, Wang Xian looked at Ling Jian, behind him, and said, "The golden lotus tree is upstairs. Take a look at the first floor and see if there are any items that you need. We can buy them together now." As he spoke, he pointed at the items around him. There are so many weapons and treasures. Long Xiaotian, who followed them into the store, looked ahead and was slightly stunned. There were rows and rows of weapons and armor on the walls. The lowest level was at Transcendent Level 7 or 8. Apart from the weapons and armor, there were even more precious sets. There were all kinds of them, at least thousands of them. Apart from these, there were 2 pet eggs and a few fierce beasts. When he saw the 5 little yen monkeys, his eyes shone with a blazing light. A half-step void interpretation level demonic beast cub. This even has the bloodline of a half-step void interpretation level ferocious beast. My God! When he saw the 2 well-sealed bloodlines at the side again, his eyes widened with a fiery expression. The bloodline of a half-step void interpretation level ferocious beast. This thing was extremely rare. A bloodline of this level would sell for at least 50 to 60 billion middle-grade spirit stones. Even though he was a prince of the Guanglong dynasty and was well-informed, he was still stunned when he saw the items in Wang Xian's grocery store. Bai Qingshan and the core experts who followed the second prince widened their eyes when they saw the items around them. They were filled with shock. This was a grocery store. Was this a grocery store? Damn it, everything inside could be auctioned off. Especially the young demonic beast, the half-step void interpretation bloodline, and the pet eggs. The complete set of weapons, armor, and boots was a huge treasure trove. How could the items inside a grocery store be so terrifying? This is the first floor. Most of the items on the first floor are below the void interpretation level. The items on the second floor are used by the void interpretation experts. There are some weapons, armor, and formations of the void interpretation level. Wang Xian smiled when he saw their shocked expressions. Let's go upstairs. Ling Jian scanned the surroundings and said to Wang Xian calmly, "All right." Wang Xian nodded and led them upstairs. As soon as they entered the second floor, waves of powerful auras could be felt. The blade, the sword aura, and the thick and heavy armor all contained a strong fluctuation. On the second floor, there were more weapons. There were more than 10 void interpretation level longswords, but the 5th level void interpretation level longsword was not taken out because few people could afford it. The highest level was a 3rd level void interpretation level longsword. On the entire second floor, there were about 20 weapons and armor. In addition, there was a golden lotus tree and a 2nd level void interpretation formation. Hiss! As soon as they entered, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. They stared at the weapons and armors with burning eyes. This, Brother Wang Xian, where did you get so many treasures? Oh my God, this grocery store is crazy. Long Xiaotian stared at Wang Xian with his eyes wide open and asked with a face full of shock. It's all right. I'm ready to sell all the items here as soon as possible. Wang Xian smiled faintly and looked at Ling Jian, who was beside him. Golden lotus tree. Metal elemental cultivators can increase the speed of their cultivation by cultivating beside this tree. It's helpful in comprehending supernatural powers. If you want it, give me 20,000 drops of spiritual liquid. Wang Xian said directly to Ling Jian, who was beside him. 20,000. Ling Jian frowned slightly and looked at her interspatial ring. 20,000 is considered cheap. After all, this kind of thing is not something that weapons and armor can compare to. Wang Xian said directly, I don't have so much spiritual liquid. Ling Jian frowned slightly and said, How much do you have? Wang Xian frowned slightly and asked her, Only 13,000. We are still short of 7,000. She said directly, How long will it take to get the remaining 7,000? Wang Xian looked at her. I'll give it a try. It shouldn't be a problem for half a month. Ling Jian said with a frown, All right, give me the 13,000 spiritual liquid, and I'll keep the golden lotus tree for you. Wang Xian stretched out his hand with a smile and said to her, Why aren't you a gentleman at all? Ling Jian looked at Wang Xian and felt that he was very different from other men. He couldn't even be called a man. I don't take credit for my small business. Why don't you mortgage Xiaoha here? Wang Xian said plainly. Oh. After Wang Xian finished his words, Xiaoha even let out a cooperative cry. This made Ling Jian Yar's face turn black. Mortgage him? When she came to ask for it, Xiaoha would probably not want to be with her anymore. Here, I'll come and get the golden lotus tree in half a month. As she spoke, she threw a porcelain bottle to Wang Xian and snatched Xiaoha away. Then, she walked out with a cold expression on her face. Long Xiaotian was stunned when he saw the conversation between Wang Xian and Ling Jian. Brother Wang Xian, how did you get to know Ling Jian? Long Xiaotian was a little speechless as he asked him. Her? What's wrong? She lives next door to me. Wang Xian looked at him in puzzlement and said, Next door? Brother Wang Xian, don't you know Ling Jian Yar's background? Long Xiaotian stared at him and asked in surprise, Is his background very strong? Wang Xian looked at him. It's not just strong. The young miss of the Heavenly Sword sect, do you think she's strong? Even the current me can't compare to her. Long Xiaotian looked at Ling Jian Yar's disappearing figure and said, Oh, she's really a rich lady. Wang Xian smiled as a hint of surprise flashed in his eyes. The Heavenly Sword sect was one of the few powerful forces that could match the Guanglong dynasty. The status of the miss of the Heavenly Sword sect was indeed not simple. Rich lady. Long Xiaotian was a little speechless when he heard his words. He hesitated for a moment before continuing to speak to Wang Xian. Ling Jian Yar's situation is a little special. There is one thing that everyone knows. Ling Jian has been expelled from the Heaven Sword sect. Do you know the reason? The sect leader of the Heaven Sword sect was once known as the most outstanding Heaven's favorite in the Flowing Sea region for 1,000 years. His strength was extremely terrifying. Ling Jian was the first daughter of the sect leader of the Heaven Sword sect. Later on, the sect leader of the Heaven Sword sect married another wife. This was nothing to a powerhouse. The second wife gave birth to a son, which was Ling Jian Yar's younger brother. Ling Jian Yar's younger brother's talent was extremely monstrous, even more monstrous than the sect leader of the Heavenly Sword sect. He was favored by the entire Heavenly Sword sect and was even determined to surpass the sect in the future. However, a few years ago, something happened. Ling Jian Yar's younger brother and her biological mother killed Ling Jian Yar's mother. Chapter 1232. Under the shocking grocery store. Ling Jian found out about this at the first moment. Do you know what she did? She directly killed her brother and his wife. A son that was highly valued by the entire sect and doted on by the sect master of the Heavenly Sword sect was killed by his own daughter. Although it was their fault, it still made the Heavenly Sword sect extremely furious. 2 of his wives died, and his son was killed by his daughter. I heard that the sect master of the Heavenly Sword sect vomited blood on the spot and directly expelled Ling Jian from the Heavenly Sword sect. He even announced that he would no longer have anything to do with her in the future. After the announcement, the sect master of the Heavenly Sword sect went into closed-door cultivation in anger and did not see anyone. He has been in closed-door cultivation for an entire 5 years now. Ling Jian was expelled from the Heavenly Sword sect. The Heavenly Sword sect is also filled with helplessness towards this matter. However, regardless of whether it is the others or the disciples of the Heavenly Sword sect, they all know that Ling Jian is the only daughter of the sect master. Furthermore, Ling Jian, who has been expelled, has displayed extraordinary talent. No matter how great the hatred is, it is still no match for blood relations. No one knows if the sect master of the Heavenly Sword sect will take her back. Therefore, Ling Jian is in a rather special place in the tomb of the demi-human. No one dares to provoke her, not even the people from the Bloodshed Empire. After all, this is the last bloodline of the sect master of the Heaven Sword sect. There is no guarantee that she will be harmed. It will drive the sect master of the Heaven Sword sect, who has already lost all his family members, crazy. Long Xiaotian slowly told Wang Xian about Ling Jian. I didn't expect her to have such a miserable past. What a pitiful girl. Wang Xian was slightly taken aback as he shook his head lightly. Brother Wang Xian, if you pity her, you can have a deep conversation with her. Haha. Maybe one day when her father comes to look for her, you will become the son-in-law of the Heaven's Sword sect. Long Xiaotian joked with him. Wang Xian shook his head slightly and said with a smile, her looks are average and she is cold. No man likes her. Long Xiaotian gave him a thumbs up when he heard his words. Then he scanned his surroundings. If I can have all the items you have here, I will definitely be able to build an invincible battle team. He looked at all the items around him with some envy. Give me 800 billion middle-grade spirit stones. I will give you everything. Wang Xian said to him indifferently. Long Xiaotian almost vomited blood when he heard his words. 800 billion middle-grade spirit stones. Even our Guanglong dynasty's annual income doesn't even amount to 800 billion. I don't even have 80 billion now. The main reason I asked you to come here this time is to ask you to help me advertise. I want to get rid of the items here as soon as possible. Wang Xian smiled when he heard his words. As a reward, you can get something that you like from here. Leave the publicity to me. As for the reward, you are too polite. You have helped me a lot today. Long Xiaotian shook his head with a smile. Brother, you can give it to me if you don't want it. I want that little yen monkey. At this moment, he had just finished his sentence when Long Luo grabbed his arm and said hurriedly, Why would a child want a little yen monkey? Refine your pills properly. Long Xiaotian glared at her and rubbed her head fiercely. You? All right. I'll give you a yen monkey later. Wang Xian saw Long Luo's angry look and said with a smile, Hee, Brother Wang is still the best. HMPH. Some people are not good at their job at all. Return me my brother. Long Luo revealed an excited look. She quickly grabbed Wang Xian's arm and glared at Long Xiaotian with a mocking look. Brother Wang Xian, how can this be? Wang Xian waved his hand at him, looking at his expression. He knew that Long Xiaotian might have a request for him. He smiled and said, It's all right. If you have anything, just tell me directly. I will definitely help you if I can. You're welcome. I won't hide it from you. Brother Wang Xian, there really is something. Long Xiaotian rubbed his hands in embarrassment. After all, he didn't come here to help Wang Xian much. On the contrary, he had a huge matter that required Wang Xian's help. The matter of the mount. Wang Xian looked at him and guessed. That's right. It's the matter of the mount. Brother Wang Xian, do you think can you help? I'm a little short on money recently. Sure, this is a small matter. You can look for me after you find the ferocious beast. Forget about the spirit stones. It's a piece of cake. Wang Xian interrupted him and agreed immediately. Haha. Thank you, Brother Wang Xian. It's my greatest fortune to know you. Long Xiaotian was so excited that his face turned slightly red when he heard his words. He quickly said, how could he not be excited? He had more than 200 subordinates now. If all of them had mounts that were above Transcendent Level 7, that would be a terrifying cavalry battle team. In fact, with Wang Xian's help during the next year's assessment, he might be able to build a battle team that was not weaker than the most elite of the Guanglong dynasty. By then, the position of crown prince would be within his grasp. The other princes were not qualified to compete with him at all. Wang Xian smiled nonchalantly. After chatting with him for a while, he came downstairs and sat up, waiting for customers to arrive. He is even more terrifying than we expected. Walking out of the Dragon and Phoenix grocery store, the old man beside Long Xiaotian said with a sigh. Bai Qingshan nodded in agreement. His background is definitely not simple. To be able to bring out so many precious treasures and to be proficient in beast-taming techniques. The second prince's throne is within reach. That's right. With Brother Wang Xian's help, the throne is within reach. Long Xiaotian's heart was filled with fighting spirit. For the first time, he felt that the throne was within reach. Looks like I have to help promote Brother Wang Xian's shop. Long Xiaotian mumbled. Boss, what do you sell here? Not long after Long Xiaotian and the rest left, 5 middle-aged men walked into Wang Xian's shop curiously. They looked at the spirit purple qilin and the blood evil turtle lying on both sides with fear in their eyes. Other than elixirs and spiritual herbs, we have everything else. Come in and take a look. Wang Xian looked at them and said with a smile, all right. The 5 middle-aged men walked in. They were only here out of curiosity. After witnessing the battle just now, they were itching to come in and take a look. Seeing how easygoing Wang Xian was, they heaved a sigh of relief and walked in. Oh my God! There are so many weapons, armor, and complete sets of equipment. Look over there, look. Ferocious beasts and demonic beast cubs. Are these for sale as well? What is that? What is that? The half-step void interpretation ferocious beast bloodline? How is that possible? Oh my God! However, very soon, the exclamations of the 5 of them spread throughout the shop. Chapter 1233. Strength had increased by leaps and bounds. Did you guys hear? Yesterday, he killed the 9-star dynasty's void interpretation expert and the youth who killed all the subordinates of the 8th prince of the Dragon dynasty. He actually killed a half-step void interpretation demonic beast cub in his grocery store. What's a half-step void interpretation demonic beast cub? There's a half-step void interpretation demonic beast bloodline in there. Are there complete sets of Transcendent Level 9 and half-step void interpretation weapons and armor boots? But there are complete sets. There are more than 10 sets. How is that a grocery store? It's practically a treasure trove. It's practically a treasure trove. I heard that there are even void interpretation level items for sale on the 2nd floor. This is crazy. Today, I saw several major powers and diamond mercenary group leaders walking towards that store. I heard that the young owner of that shop is also very powerful. He defeated Yin Xianfeng and even killed the Sword Sect's Heavenly Sword Star. He can be ranked on the prodigy roll now. The entire graveyard of demi-humans became lively. The reason was not that Wang Xian killed an expert at the see-through level, nor was it because he killed the 8th prince's subordinate. The death of an expert at the SETHROUGH level would not cause a commotion in the graveyard of demi-humans. The reason for the commotion was because of the Dragon Phoenix grocery store. It was a store with the bloodline of a half-step void interpretation realm vicious beast, demon beast cubs, complete sets of weapons, pet eggs, and array formations. When he entered the Dragon Phoenix grocery store yesterday with curiosity, he walked out with his eyes wide open and his face filled with shock. Those precious items were items that many people would risk their lives for. Even if Blood Dynasty held an auction once a month, Many items could be used as the finale treasures. Now, all of them were sold in this grocery store. This instantly caused a lot of people to boil. At night, thousands of people entered the store with curiosity. When they entered and saw the items, their eyes widened in shock. In the next few days, more and more people went to the Dragon and Phoenix grocery store. A small grocery store was filled with people all day long. In less than 5 days, there were only a few items left in the Dragon and Phoenix grocery store. Only some weapons on the second floor were not sold. The rest of the items were almost all sold out. As there were 2 ferocious beasts at the first level of the profound void stage guarding the store, coupled with the fact that Long Xiaotian had been staying in the store for the past few days, many people who harbored ill intentions dispelled their thoughts. The fragrance of wine was not afraid of the depth of the alleyway. Even though Wang Xian had expected that his grocery store would be very popular, he was still surprised that he was able to sell the items one by one so quickly. After all, some items were worth 40 to 50 billion middle-grade spirit stones. It's much faster than I expected. Long Xiaotian said to give the last few weapons of the see-through realm to him. 6 days later, Wang Xian stood in the shop and smiled when he saw that there were not many items left in the entire grocery store. The tomb of the demi-human was the center of the entire Luhai region and the place with the most number of experts. The items that were worth 700 to 800 billion middle-grade spirit stones did not cause much of a stir. There were simply too many wealthy families, kingdoms, and sections. Wang Xian didn't even have the slightest doubt that even if he had 10 times more treasures, he would be able to sell all of them within 1 to 2 months. When I came out, I would never have thought that I would be able to raise my level again in less than 2 months. Wang Xian revealed a faint smile as he looked at the spiritual liquid in the porcelain bottle in his hand. A glint flashed across his eyes. His body shook as he took out a formation to conceal his aura and placed it around him. Then he took a deep breath. Wang Xian opened the porcelain bottle and swallowed all the spiritual liquid in it into his stomach. Under the transformation of the system, the spiritual liquid transformed into pure dragon energy and entered all 4 limbs of his body. Ding! Congratulations to host for upgrading to extraordinary level 9. Ding! Congratulations to host for comprehending the 3 elemental abilities of metal, water, and wood. Metal Spirit Tree Demon. Ding! Congratulations to Quality for comprehending the water, fire, and metal elemental ability. Metal and Fire Cleansing. Ding! Congratulations to Quality for comprehending the 4 elemental abilities of earth, water, wood, and fire, Earth's Death. At this moment, the system's voice rang out one after another. It caused Wang Xian's arm to stiffen slightly as his eyes flashed with excitement. Excitement did not come from the increase in level, but from the system's divine ability. 3 divine abilities, just like the last time he upgraded. However, each of these 3 divine abilities was more terrifying than the last. 3 attribute divine abilities for attribute divine abilities. Wang Xian's eyes were filled with excitement. Name, Wang Xian. Race, 5 elemental divine dragon, able to transform into a human. Level, extraordinary level 9. Dragon crystal, 1176400/100000000. Supernatural ability, ruling the water tribe. Ruling the water tribe that is lower than one's own level. Devouring creatures to extract dragon crystals. Control of the 5 elements. Cultivation method. Divine dragon transformation. Supernatural ability. Fire dragon's flame. Gold crack void. Descent of the wood realm, water crisis city. Fury of the earth, soul capture. Spirit possession, light and dark fire dragon eyes. Light and dark void. Light and dark shadowless. Earth dragon shield, light and dark. Fire tail of the divine dragon. Water spirit, fire territory, water and wood healing, gold spirit tree demon. Gold Fire Cleansing, War of the Earth. Dragon Palace, Level 3. Dragon Palace members, 3,366. My level has increased once again. The comprehension of supernatural powers is the real perverse part. Haha. Wang Xian couldn't help but laugh out loud in excitement. Gold Spirit Tree Demon. Gold Fire Cleansing, Earth's Death. These 3 supernatural powers had basically raised his strength to another level on the basis of the increase in his level. As a level 8 transcendent, he was able to kill a level 1 void interpretation when he was in his human form after mastering the combination of 3 attributes. Now that he was a level 9 transcendent, how strong would he be after mastering the 3 and 4 attributes? Wang Xian was confident that he could crush a level 2 void interpretation when he was in his human form. He could fight against a level 3 void interpretation, but he should not be a match for him. Under the divine dragon form, he could easily kill a level 3 void interpretation and escape when he faced a level 4 void interpretation. This was not just an increase in his strength, but a huge increase in his strength. A person at level 9 of the supernatural realm was able to crush a person at level 2 of the see-through realm. Who would believe it? No one dared to believe it. Even Wang Xian himself in the past was not 100% sure that he could kill him. However, the fusion of the attributes allowed him to fight against a person at a higher level than him on the basis of the divine dragon's body. The fusion of the 4 attributes and the divine dragon's inheritance allowed him to kill a person at level 3 of the see-through realm at level 9 of the supernatural realm. I understand now. All along, my cultivation has entered a misconception. It's a deformity. I have relied too much on the divine dragon's inheritance and not on myself. Wang Xian looked at the golden spirit tree demon and the golden fire cleansing. He had some thoughts. When humans cultivate, they would cultivate their combat skills before they reached the insightful emptiness realm. They would convert their combat skills into divine abilities. It was the same for transcendence. They would upgrade the battle techniques they cultivated to divine abilities so that they could make breakthroughs. As for himself, he had never cultivated battle techniques. He had relied on the system to randomly obtain divine abilities. Chapter 1234, Heaven's Pride Stage. Wang Xian relied on the system. Due to his deep foundation and inheritance, he would automatically obtain supernatural powers. Sometimes Wang Xian could even obtain 2 to 3 supernatural powers. However, these supernatural powers were all single attribute supernatural powers. This was because Wang Xian did not cultivate dual attribute combat skills. It was only when he reached extraordinary level 8 that his understanding of attributes deepened. He relied on the system to obtain dual attribute supernatural powers. Even so, it was still considered useless for a 5-elemental divine dragon. When Wang Xian began to comprehend the combination of the 2 attributes, this upgrade allowed him to comprehend 3 or even 4 attribute divine abilities. During these few days, Wang Xian was also comprehending the combination of attribute attacks while he was selling various items. With the successful examples of the 3 attributes, it was much easier for him to comprehend the next 3 attributes. On the 6th day, he had 2 ideas. One was to use the descent of the wood world as the prototype. By adding the water and metal attributes, he would be able to summon an even more powerful combat object. Through the spirit enchantment, he would make it even more terrifying. Wang Xian used the 5 elements of metal to create wood and wood to create water. After countless attempts, he finally grasped the basics. Furthermore, due to the combination of metal and water, Wang Xian thought of the fire element in this combination of combat techniques. Water countered fire, fire countered metal, and the 5 elements countered each other to form a combat technique. In the end, when Wang Xian broke through to Transcendent Level 9, the system rewarded him with a divine ability, Gold Spirit Tree Demon and Gold Fire Cleansing. two terrifying divine abilities combined with three elements. As for the final battle of the earth, it was probably due to Wang Xian's deepening of his attributes. The system rewarded him with a divine ability that combined four elements. This was also the case. Wang Xian had basically mastered the combination of the three attributes. It would not be long before he could try the combination of the four attributes. However, the understanding of the four attributes made it easier for Wang Xian to understand the combination of the four attributes in the future. Wang Xian moved his palm slightly. The air in his palm seemed to explode. The four attributes revolved in his palm, causing an excited expression to appear on his face. These are only four attributes. If I can master the combination of the five elements, will I be able to destroy a level 3 or even level 4 void interpretation expert? This is too violent. An excited expression appeared in Wang Xian's eyes. He could control the five elements with a flip of his hand. Phew! In the next few days, I should deepen my attack on the combination of attributes. Wang Xian took a deep breath as his eyes sparkled. After transforming into the divine dragon, he was now able to destroy a level 3 see-through expert. With his strength, he could be considered a top-notch expert even in the graveyard of demi-humans. Some kings of small countries like the Nine Stars Empire were only at level 3 see-through. When his strength increased once again, and he mastered the five elements, he would be able to directly destroy a level 4 see-through expert. A level 5 expert could fight him or even destroy him. However, I will need 1 billion dragon crystals for the next level up. If I exchange them for middle-grade spirit stones, I will need more than 10 trillion. Wang Xian looked at the dragon energy required for the next level up, and the corner of his mouth twitched. There was one problem. If Wang Xian were to level up again, he would be at the first level of the see-through void stage. He would not be able to reach the half-step see-through void stage. If he were to level up again, he would be able to step into the third transformation of the divine dragon transformation. With the increase in my strength, it would be easier for me to obtain resources. I will go back after I level up to the third change of the divine dragon transformation. Wang Xian thought to himself. Next, he would have to accumulate 10 times the resources that he had obtained previously. After closing the Dragon and Phoenix grocery store, Wang Xian flew towards his residence. He had been staying in the store for the past few days and had not returned. In the next few days, Wang Xian would have to comb through his combination attributes to build a stronger foundation. When he returned to his residence, Wang Xian placed the spirit purple qilin and the blood evil turtle in the courtyard. He returned to his room and began to comprehend them. He still had to continue to improve his mastery of the fusion of the three attributes. Star explosion was fire earth metal. Fire penetrating metal was fire metal water. Metal spirit tree demon was metal water wood. Metal fire cleansing was also fire metal water. He could still continue to combine the four attributes metal wood fire, metal wood earth, water fire wood, water wood earth. In the following period of time, Wang Xian was immersed in the combination of attributes. The combination of metal, wood, fire, and the brilliant sun combat technique was comprehended. The combination of metal, wood, and earth attributes of the bramble domain combat technique was comprehended. The combination of water, fire, and wood attributes of the spirit poison combat technique was comprehended. The combination of water, wood, and earth attributes of the three spirits combat armor combat technique was comprehended. Wang Xian spent 7 to 8 days to slowly master the combination of the three attributes. After completely mastering the combination of the three attributes, he could easily kill anyone in his human form at the second level of the void interpretation stage. Following that, Wang Xian began to comprehend the fusion of the four attributes. Compared to the three attributes, the difficulty of fusing the four attributes had increased by a few levels. how to perfectly fuse the 4 attributes and how to make it explode with terrifying power. All of these required a deep understanding. Even with the 4 attributes, it was still extremely difficult for Wang Xian to comprehend the combined attacks of the 4 attributes. According to his estimation, if he didn't have any inspiration, he would need at least a few months of practice and comprehension. Awu! Awu! Another few days passed, and Wang Xian heard Xiaoha's cry from outside. This made him slightly stunned. He looked at the time and realized that another 2 days had passed. It should be Ling Jian, or who has gathered enough spiritual liquid. Wang Xian thought to himself. He moved his body and opened the door. He looked at the wall. As expected, Ling Jian was standing there with Xiaoha in her arms. Have you gathered enough spiritual liquid? Wang Xian looked at her and asked with a smile. It's time for the agreed time. When she heard this, she frowned slightly and threw a porcelain bottle to Wang Xian. There are still 2,000 left. I will bring it to you as soon as possible. Huh. Wang Xian took the spiritual liquid that she threw over and reached out to catch it. He was slightly surprised when he saw that there were exactly 5,000 drops inside. From Long Xiaotian, he learned some information about Ling Jianar and knew that she was the one who obtained the spiritual liquid. He was very surprised that she could obtain 5,000 drops of spiritual liquid in half a month, which was equivalent to 10 billion middle-grade spiritual stones. You're injured again. Wang Xian kept the spiritual liquid into his interspatial ring. When he looked at Ling Jian, who was about to ask some questions, he suddenly saw the injury on her arm. He was slightly stunned. It's inevitable to get injured in a fight. Ling Jian said expressionlessly, I'll give you the golden lotus tree first. If you tell me how you got so much spiritual liquid so quickly, I don't want the rest of the spiritual liquid. Wang Xian threw the golden lotus tree to her and asked, The Heaven's Pride stage is the Heaven's Pride stage left behind by the Bloodstream sect. As long as you step onto the Heaven's Pride stage, you will be rewarded with spiritual liquid. The higher the ranking, the more generous the reward. Ling Jian took the golden lotus tree and said to him expressionlessly, Chapter 1235 Battle. Heaven's Pride Stage. Wang Xian murmured as he watched Ling Jian leave. Heaven's Pride Stage, one of the 4 great ruins of the Bloodstream sect. It was a famous place for young geniuses. On the Heaven's Pride Stage, all cultivators under the age of 50 could step into the Heaven's Pride Stage. On the Heaven's Pride Stage, there were only 20 Heaven's Pride disciples. Becoming one of the top 20 Heaven's Pride disciples would bring immense benefits. Firstly, the prodigy stage had a special place for the prodigies to cultivate. According to the rankings of the prodigies, the spiritual energy in the training area was different. It was said that the number 1 prodigy's training area was 10 times more than the outside world. It could even help one comprehend divine abilities inside. This was definitely a terrifying paradise. Even if it was the top 20, it would have twice the increase in spiritual energy. There was also the God awakening tree inside to maintain the abundance of spiritual energy. As long as one could enter the Heaven's Pride stage, not only would a warrior be able to obtain a powerful training ground, they would also be able to become famous throughout the world. To be able to enter the Heaven's Pride list, one could basically be said to be one of the top 20 Heaven's Pride sons in the entire Luhai region. As long as one could enter, one would receive the attention of tens of thousands of people. One would be heavily nurtured by the families and dynasties. He would be roped in by countless powerful forces. There would be endless benefits. It could be said that if he ascended to that position, wealth, beauties, and fame would be within his reach. So there's a reward for ascending to the prodigy role. If I had known earlier, I would have gone there myself. Wang Xian had obtained the information from Long Xiaotian. He didn't have this information. If he hadn't heard from Ling Jian, she wouldn't have known about it. I'll go over and take a look tomorrow. Thinking of how Ling Jianyar would be able to obtain 5,000 spiritual liquid in half a month, Wang Xian was extremely tempted. He stood in the courtyard and practiced his combined attribute attacks. Each attack could create a terrifying power. As long as he exerted force, he could easily flatten the courtyard where he lived. After practicing for a while, he went back to his room to rest. The next morning, Wang Xian walked out of his room. He looked at the map and flew toward the center of the cemetery. The 4 great sites of the Bloodstream sect were all located at the center. There were often hostile, demonic beasts roaming around that area. There were even demonic beasts that tried to assassinate humans. That was where the real meat grinder was. Thousands of humans would die every day. The Heaven's Pride stage was relatively safer. It was located at the outermost location of the 4 great ruins. Moreover, all the people gathered there were young men below the age of 50. They were all outstanding young men who wanted to be on the Heaven's Pride roll. For those young men who were not qualified to be on the Heaven's Pride roll, they could also spar, fight, or even fight on the Heaven's Pride stage. The entire Heaven's Pride roll was extremely lively. Wang Xian's strength had increased greatly, and his speed had also increased by several times. There were 2 Heaven's Pride rolls in the Human Demon Graveyard. One was the Human Heaven's Pride roll, and the other belonged to the Demonic Beast Heaven's Pride roll. The Human Heaven's Pride roll was located in the forest, while the Demonic Beast Heaven's Pride roll was located in the ocean. The distance between the 2 was not very far. It was only about 20 kilometers. It's really hard to imagine how glorious the Blood Flow sect would be in the past. The closer he was to the central area, the more buildings there were in the surroundings. Most of the buildings had already collapsed, but there were still buildings standing in the forest. Wang Xian flew in the sky and looked down with some shock. He looked at the Heaven's Pride stage that appeared in front of him and was even more shocked. The Heaven's Pride stage that was 300 to 400 meters tall contained terrifying energy. The entire Heaven's Pride stage covered an area of at least 5 kilometers. The powerful formation covered it. Even after thousands of years, it was still majestic and magnificent. Wang Xian looked ahead and could vaguely see a building that was thousands of meters tall, stretching for dozens of kilometers. Half of it was in the forest, and the other half was in the ocean. It was magnificent and legendary. If it was the Bloodstream sect at its peak, the buildings inside should be even more impressive than the Dragon Palace. Wang Xian thought to himself, the Bloodstream sect had thousands of insightful emptiness realm experts. What kind of concept was this? In order to cause unnecessary trouble, I should put on a mask to hide it. Wang Xian looked at the tens of thousands of young men in front of the Heaven's Pride stage. With a move of his palm, a mask appeared in his hand. Following that, a black robe covered his entire body, making him look extremely cold. The black mask covered his face, the black robe covered his body, and he held a black, demon-free sword in his hand. It had to be said that Wang Xian's attire was very flirtatious and very cool. He didn't care about it. On the contrary, in order to hide his identity, he had to be more handsome. Wang Xian smiled and landed on the ground. He slowly walked towards the Heaven's Pride stage. The Heaven's Pride stage was famous for young people under the age of 50. The current Wang Xian was only 26 years old. Every time a Heaven's Pride level rises, one will receive a corresponding reward. It seems like I have to break through this Heaven's Pride stage. He strolled over with a confident expression on his face. With a light step, he covered a distance of 100 meters. This was a combined battle technique, river flow, combining the water and earth attributes to increase his speed. The changes in the prodigy role over the past 2 days have been huge. Even the top 5 have undergone huge changes. Ling Jian, ER, is simply too strong. He even defeated Luo Shihua, who was ranked fourth and reached the top fourth. I feel that the most monstrous genius is still that Heaven's Pride expert called Ren Xingqian. It has only been a short while and he has already reached the third place. This is the third place. Who knows? He might be able to reach the top soon. It's a little difficult to reach the top. Senior Qian Ye's strength is too terrifying. She defeated Long Shaoqin, who was ranked 10th in one move. Now that Senior Qian Yi is already 49 years old, Ren Xingqian will have to wait until Senior Qian Yi is 50 years old before he can reach the top. Furthermore, there's also Tang Feng, who is ranked second. The Heaven's Pride rolls Heaven's sword. Star has fallen recently, and Yin Xianfeng has fallen. I heard that he was killed by a young man. If that young man were to come, he might be able to occupy a spot. Wang Xian came to the front of the Heaven's Pride roll. When he heard the voices of the crowd, he raised his eyebrows slightly. Ren Xingqian and Ling Jian er. Wang Xian was more familiar with these two names. It seems that Ren Xingqian has already broken through to the half-step void interpretation realm. Otherwise, it would be impossible for him to have such powerful strength. Wang Xian thought to himself, if one wanted to be on the Heaven's Pride roll, one must have the strength of a half-step void interpretation realm. After all, this place was filled with the peerless prodigies of the 100 billion people in the Luhai region. As long as one entered this prodigy role, as long as they didn't lose anything, they would almost certainly be able to enter the profound void martial stage. Look, the rankings have changed again. Right at this moment, a cry of surprise sounded out. Everyone looked towards the center of the prodigy stage. There was a huge prodigy roll that was very eye-catching. On the Heaven's Pride roll, the number 1 was Qian Yi, who was 49 years old. The number 2 was Tang Feng, who was 47 years old. The number 3 was Ren Xingqian, who was 33 years old. The number 4 was Ling Jian who was 30 years old. The number 5 was Luo Shihua, who was 38 years old. The number 6 was Tang Yuan, who was 36 years old. Chapter 1236, versus Heaven's Pride 2. On the Heaven's Pride leaderboard, each and every name was emitting an eye-catching light. Even if they were very far away, they could still be seen clearly. Wang Xian scanned the names on the leaderboard. Oh my God, another black horse has appeared. That Mu Yuan has actually reached the 9th place on the Heaven's Pride leaderboard. Hiss, there are so many black horses these days. The Heaven's Pride leaderboard changes every day. Some of the Heaven's Pride leaderboards in the past were directly pushed down. That's because the Prodigy Bridge will appear in a dozen days. Once it appears, it will connect to the Prodigy stage on the other side of the demonic beasts. At that time, when the prodigies of the human and demon races compete, the demonic beasts will be able to obtain the title of the Prodigy Paragon and receive a large number of rewards. The Prodigy Paragon. This means that in the entire flowing sea region, humans and demonic beasts are the strongest of the younger generation. As far as I know, the Prodigy Paragon was only obtained by the sect master of the Heavenly Sword sect 100 years ago. For nearly 100 years, it was all the demonic beasts that obtained the title of the Prodigy Paragon. Demonic beasts are born with inheritances. Powerful demonic beasts can reach the level of the see-through void realm within a few decades. There's no way for us to compete with them. I wonder if Senior Qian Yi will be able to obtain the title of Supreme Prodigy this year. The people around also raised their heads to look at the Heaven's Pride roll. The sounds of their conversation entered Wang Xian's ears. Supreme Prodigy. Wang Xian glanced at the list and heard the voices around him. He mumbled softly. His gaze swept across the surroundings. The entire Heaven's Favorites arena was like a huge training square. Groups of young people were gathered here. In the middle of the arena, there were some arenas. There were young people sparring on the arenas, and there were also people fighting on the arenas. The Heaven's Favorites arena had a total height of 500 meters. Anyone could spar on the arenas at the bottom. And above, there were even larger stages. There were 20 stages in total, all the way up to the height of 500 meters in the sky. The smallest of these stages had a radius of 3 kilometers. Even an expert at the profound void tier could fight on it. However, there was an age limit to climbing onto the stage above. The array could detect a person's growth ring. Those with a growth ring of more than 50 were not allowed to step onto the stage. Stepping onto the ring meant challenging a heaven's favorite. One had to take out at least 500 drops of spiritual liquid or other treasures in order to have the right to challenge. If the challenge was successful, the item would be returned and the reward would be obtained. This was the rule. From now on, break through the heavens' favorite ranking. Wang Xian revealed a faint smile as he walked towards the heavens' favorite stage. Although his attire was a little flirtatious, there were more people around the Heaven's Pride stage who were dressed more flirtatiously than him. Some people were riding on a mighty mount and held shiny weapons in their hands. Their aura was even more flirtatious than Wang Xian's. Walking around the Heaven's Pride stage, Wang Xian did not attract the attention of others. He walked straight towards the Heaven's Pride stage. As he passed by one arena after another, there were cheers and cheers from the surroundings, as well as the sounds of collisions and shouts. He looked around and saw that all of them were young men below the half-step void interpretation stage. There were even very few of them who were at level 9 of the extraordinaire. He continued, walking upwards. Soon, Wang Xian saw the first Heaven's Pride stage. Ranked 20th on the Heaven's Pride roll, Chen Lin of the Blood Sect. In front of the Heaven's Pride stage, there was a huge stone tablet with 4 names written on it. The Blood Sect represented the Bloodstream sect. Chen Lin was ranked 20th on the Heaven's Pride roll. When some prodigies became famous, they would bring along their sects, clans, or kingdoms. This was also an indirect form of publicity. Buzz. Divine Wind Academy's Huang Tian is challenging the Blood Sect's Chen Lin, ranked 20th on the prodigy roll. At this moment, the entire Heaven's Pride stage shook as a cold voice rang out. Wang Xian was slightly taken aback as he looked over in astonishment. Someone is challenging a Heaven's Pride expert again. Who is this Huang Tian from the Divine Wind Academy? Let's go. Let's hurry over and take a look. There are so many battles on the Heaven's Pride stage these few days. All the hidden geniuses have come out. They are trying to step onto the Heaven's Pride bridge. Voices rang out one after another. Following that, Wang Xian saw many people flying towards the Blood Sect. Chen Lin's arena. That was the arena belonging to the 20th ranked Heaven's favorites. They came to the front of the arena, threw a drop of spiritual liquid into it, and entered the arena directly. Has someone already challenged me? He's one step faster than me. Wang Xian thought to himself. With a move of his body, he flew directly to the front of the Heaven's Favorites arena. To enter and watch the Heaven's Favorites competition, one had to pay a fee of 1 drop of spiritual liquid. However, Wang Xian possessed the divine ability Shadow and Light, also known as No Formation. He could ignore the formation and enter directly. When Wang Xian flew in, he saw 2 young men standing at the front desk. A young man dressed in blood-red clothes was holding a large saber in his hand. His gaze was cold as he stared in front of him. He was Chen Lin from the Bloodstream sect, who was currently ranked 20th on the Heaven's Favorites ranking. In front of him was a black-clothed young man with 2 large words, Divine Wind, engraved on his back. He was the prodigy challenger, Divine Wind Academy's Huang Tian. The Bloodstream sect and Divine Wind Academy were both powerful forces that could rival the Radiant Dragon Dynasty. They were both top-tier forces. Nobody from Divine Wind Academy still wants to challenge me. He's really courting death. In front of the arena, Chen Lin stared coldly at the challenger, Huang Tian, and said coldly, Haha, you really take yourself seriously. Our senior Huang Tian is the top genius of the academy. After entering seclusion for a year, there really is no tiger or monkey in the mountain that can claim to be the king. That's right. With our senior Huang Tian strength, you're merely a small start. Yet you still dare to speak arrogantly. Opposite Chenlin, Huang Tian, who was wearing the Divine Wind Academy's clothes, did not speak. He placed his hands behind his back and stared arrogantly at Chenlin. Behind him, more than 20 students of the Divine Wind Academy followed behind him and directly mocked Chenlin. Arrogant, arrogant. Do you really think that bullshit Huang Tian is a match for our senior Chenlin? Senior Chenlin, kill him, kill him. In the surroundings, some disciples of the Bloodstream sect heard the words of the Divine Wind Academy and roared angrily. The Bloodstream sect and the Divine Wind Academy had always had some friction, and it was even more so on the Prodigy stage. Haha, little disciple of the Bloodstream sect, I can defeat you within 10 moves. Huang Tian heard the voices around him, and a trace of coldness flashed across his eyes. He laughed loudly and directly flew onto the arena. Come here and die. Standing in the middle of the stage, Huang Tian stared at Chenlin arrogantly. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly as he stretched out a hand and curled it in a provocative manner. You're courting death. Chenlin's eyes were filled with killing intent. His body moved, and he directly flew to the middle of the stage, facing Huang Tian from afar. Make your move. You're just a bunch of small factions. I want to climb higher mountains. Don't waste my time. Huang Tian's hands were still behind his back as he spoke to Chenlin with contempt. Fine, fine. I'll let you know the consequences of challenging me. Chapter 1237 Battle of the Prodigies 3 Heavenly Blade Reincarnation. A terrifying blade light condensed in the arena and slashed forward, signaling the start of the Battle of the Prodigies. In the surroundings, tens of thousands of youths were watching the battle on the arena. Who do you think will win this battle? That Huang Tian from the Divine Wind Academy feels extremely confident. He actually wants to be defeated within 10 moves. Huang Tian, I remember now. A year ago, Huang Tian, who was ranked 3rd in the Divine Wind Academy, was very strong. However, I haven't heard from him since then. I didn't expect him to be in seclusion for a year. A year ago, Huang Tian had already reached the half-step void interpretation realm. He must be stronger now. Chenlin might not be able to protect his reputation as a heaven's favorite. Wang Xian stood in the air and looked at the 2 people fighting below. The 3 young men beside him were discussing. That Chenlin is no match for Huang Tian. At this moment, seeing Huang Tian easily blocking Chenlin's attack, Wang Xian had some understanding in his heart. The gap between the 2 of them was still very obvious. That Huang Tian indeed had the right to be arrogant. Oh no! Senior brother Chenlin is obviously not a match for that Huang Tian. Kill him, senior brother Chenlin, kill him. Around them, when 3 moves had passed, the people from the Bloodstream sect saw the battle below and said with furious expressions, Haha, senior brother Huang Tian is invincible. Defeating a person ranked 20th on the prodigy roll is a piece of cake. Today, our senior brother Huang Tian will directly become the biggest dark horse and enter the top 10. When the students of Divine Wind Academy saw senior Huang Tian's relaxed appearance, their faces revealed an excited expression. Another dark horse has appeared. This period of time is simply too crazy. There are so many prodigies appearing. Ren Xingqian from a few days ago, Duan Jiuchuan from yesterday, and Huang Tian from today. This simply doesn't allow people to live. Duan Jiuchuan has already made it to the 11th place. I reckon that he can still make it to the top few. I just don't know how many places this Divine Wind Academy's Huang Tian can make. The Prodigy Bridge is about to appear. All the hidden prodigies have come out. When the surrounding spectators saw this scene, their faces were filled with astonishment. Haha, the 9th move, lose for me. In less than a minute, a maniacal laughter sounded from below. One could see Huang Tian holding a long sword in his hand. The long sword was not unsheathed. With a shake of his arm, a 100-meter-long sword ray directly attacked Chen Lin. Not good. At this moment, Chen Lin's face was covered in cold sweat. When he saw Huang Tian's attack, he gritted his teeth in embarrassment. "Block it for me." He roared loudly, and the surrounding soil within a 100-meter radius started to gather around his body. Although he knew that he was not Huang Tian's match, he still had to endure 10 moves. Haha, you still want to resist? Die. When Huang Tian saw Chen Lin's defense, his eyes revealed a sinister look. A killing intent was hidden in the deepest part of his eyes. Sword explosion. A savage look flashed across his face as he unsheathed his sword. A sharp sword light shot toward Chen Lin, who was defending himself. Oh no, he's going to kill Senior Brother Chen Lin. It's over. Senior Brother Chen Lin has formed a defense, so he won't be able to surrender in time. The expressions of the surrounding people, especially the disciples of the Bloodstream sect, changed drastically. Pooh, pooh, pooh. In the center of the arena, Chen Lin's expression changed drastically when he saw Huang Tian's attack. A terrifying sword light attacked him, and the Earth Tower's defense quickly crumbled. He's definitely at the peak of the half-step void interpretation realm. Chen Lin's eyes were filled with shock, and despair filled his heart. Die! Huang Tian's figure shot up, and countless sword lights covered Chen Lin from behind. Haha, I said I'd defeat you in 10 moves, yet you still want to resist as if you're courting death. In that case, I can only kill you. Huang Tian floated in the sky, looking at Chen Lin, who had already lost his vitality on the stage, his eyes filled with disdain. Huh, what a powerful attack. This Huang Tian is so strong. Chen Lin was actually killed. Hiss, 10 moves as expected, it's 10 moves. He wasn't defeated, but directly killed. Haha, Senior is invincible. Senior is awesome. When the surrounding people saw this scene, they revealed shocked expressions. The people of the Divine Wind Academy revealed excited expressions. The disciples of the Bloodstream sect were all filled with anger. I am the Heavens Pride Divine Wind Academy's Huang Tian. This battle is just the starting point. I will step on the heaven ladder step by step, stepping on the Heaven's Pride and climbing up. Huang Tian hovered above the arena. He looked at everyone coldly and said proudly. A strong sense of confidence emanated from him. That proud and invincible posture made the faces of many young people change slightly. Everyone knew that a dark horse had started to gallop. He really knows how to show off. Wang Xian looked at Huang Tian, who was floating in the sky. He shook his head slightly and moved his body. He came to the challenge stage and looked at the challenge rules on it. 500 spiritual liquid? Challenge. You need to input your name, huh? Just name one. Wang Xian looked at the rules on the challenge stage and took out 500 spiritual liquid and placed it on it. Senior Brother Huang Tian is invincible. Heaven-treading prodigy, Ao Tianqing. Buzz. Nameless challenge, the 20th place on the prodigy roll. Divine Wind Academy's Huang Tian. Just as the students of Divine Wind Academy were calling Huang Tian invincible and stepping on the prodigy roll, a cold voice resounded throughout the entire prodigy stage. In an instant, everyone was stunned and their faces revealed a look of astonishment. Huang Tian, who was floating in the air above the stage and looking down at everyone arrogantly, his expression also stiffened slightly and slowly sank. Just a moment ago, he had said that he would step on the prodigy, roll step by step to reach a higher peak. In the end, someone had challenged him in an instant. This was simply a blatant provocation and a slap to the face. Fuck, who dares to provoke our Huang Tian brothers? They are courting death. Cowardly, they don't even dare to reveal their true names. They even dare to ascend to the Heaven's Pride stage. This is simply a great humiliation. Courting death, they actually dare to challenge our senior. Senior, kill him. What's going on? This Huang Tian strength is clearly not at the 20th rank. How can there still be someone who dares to challenge him? Isn't this courting death? Huang Tian's attacks are cruel. There's still someone who dares to challenge him. The people from the Divine Wind Academy roared furiously. The rest of the people were also astonished. At this moment, there was still someone who dared to challenge Huang Tian. Nameless rat, get out here. Huang Tian was floating in the sky. He roared at his surroundings with a gloomy face. His eyes were flashing with killing intent. Wang Xian frowned slightly when he heard his words. A hint of coldness flashed in his eyes. His body moved, and he flew into the arena instantly. Buzz! After entering the arena, Wang Xian hovered in the sky and looked at Huang Tian. You're challenging me? Huang Tian's eyes flashed with a cold glint when he saw Wang Xian flying over. He sized him up from top to bottom. You don't even dare to use your real name, and your face is still covered by a mask. You are an unknown rat, yet you still dare to step onto the Heaven's Pride stage? Huang Tian's disdainful shout came from his mouth and resounded throughout the entire arena. Chapter 1238 versus Heaven's Pride 4. Nameless rat. These 4 words were very loud. The name that Wang Xian had set was nameless. His entire body was covered by a black robe and a mask, and his face couldn't be seen clearly. Haha, a guy who doesn't dare to reveal his name and face still dares to step onto the stage. What qualifications does he have to step onto the Heaven's Pride stage? That's right. Which person on the Heaven's Pride roll isn't honorable and has an invincible stance? A nameless rat who doesn't dare to reveal his real name and face still dares to challenge our senior brother Huang Tian. Get lost. You're still a prodigy? You must be a rat crossing the street, haha. Around them, the people from the Divine Wind Academy mocked Wang Xian when they saw him completely covering his figure. Even the rest of the people looked at Wang Xian and shook their heads slightly. There was a hint of disdain in their eyes. Every prodigy who dares to step onto the stage, which one of them doesn't have an invincible aura and is open and above board. It's the first time someone like this is cowardly. His name is nameless, and he doesn't show his face. The description of this nameless scoundrel is really fitting. Haha! For such a person to want to enter the Heaven's favorite ranking, he must be dreaming. The rest of the people also spoke with slight disdain. Mind your words. When Wang Xian heard Huang Tian's words, his eyes flashed as he warned him. Haha, mind my words? You are really a piece of trash. Huang Tian laughed coldly when he heard Wang Xian's words. If you want me to shut up, bring out your strength. You are such a nameless rat. You are really wasting my time. Haha, Senior is so domineering. A nameless rat. What a waste of time. I wonder where this nameless rat came from. Hurry up and scram back. The Heaven's Pride stage is the stage for the strong ones. Everything is based on strength. You even asked people to pay attention to their words. What a joke. More than 10,000 young people who were watching from the side showed disdain in their eyes. They were cowardly and didn't have the bearing of a Heaven's Pride. Their words were a joke and didn't have the aura of a strong person. Wang Xian, stared at Huang Tian and revealed a cold smile. He waved his arm and a 2-meter-wide golden light directly attacked Huang Tian. Trash, you're wasting my time. I'll kill you with one move. When Huang Tian saw Wang Xian attacking, he moved and went up to meet him. Clang! He pulled out the long sword in his hand and slashed at Jinlu. Bang! When Huang Tian's long sword, which was emitting a dazzling golden glow, slashed at Jinlu, his expression changed instantly. How could this be? He widened his eyes. The golden glow around the sword was instantly melted. The golden glow passed through his long sword and went straight to his neck. His body that was rushing towards him stopped in an instant. His eyes were filled with disbelief. "Let me tell you to shut up." "Then shut up forever." Wang Xian looked at his stiff body. There was no change in his expression. His body moved and came to his side. He took the interspatial ring from his body. Bang bang. The moment Wang Xian took away his interspatial ring and weapon, Huang Tian's entire body fell downwards. One of his heads was in the sky. It slowly detached from his body and rolled to the side. At this moment, the faces of everyone who was still looking down on Wang Xian turned stiff. Even the voice that was speaking stopped abruptly. Everyone widened their eyes and were filled with shock. One move, just one move. In less than a second, Huang Tian fell. A Heaven's Pride expert that was strong enough to kill Qinlin in 10 moves was instantly killed just like that. Cough, cough, how is this possible? How is this possible? Everyone was somewhat in disbelief. A moment ago, they were still mocking the nameless rat, but in the next moment, he instantly killed a powerful Heaven's Pride expert. Everyone could tell Huang Tian's strength. He could at least increase his ranking by 5 to 6 places. This was at least. However, just like that, a dark horse who was about to step onto the top step by step as a Heaven's favorite was killed in an instant. Thinking about the mocking earlier, everyone's facial expression changed drastically. Too strong. This was simply too strong. Wang Xian scanned his surroundings coldly. His facial expression did not change at all. Killing a half-step void interpretation expert in an instant was simply too easy for him with his current strength. His body moved and he flew out of the arena. He saw an open house at the side and flew straight in. In the house, there was a porcelain bottle filled with spiritual liquid. The spiritual energy in the entire room was twice that of the outside world. Furthermore, there was a refreshing fragrance. Wang Xian did not stay any longer. He kept the spiritual liquid into his interspatial ring and flew straight to the higher arena. When he arrived at the arena and issued the challenge, he realized that the 19th ranked Heaven's favorite was not there. Wait. Wang Xian pressed the button on the challenge button. The challenge had already been issued. Within 2 days, the opponent had to come and accept the challenge. Otherwise, it would be considered as admitting defeat and disqualification of the Heaven's favorite. Since he was not there, Wang Xian directly withdrew from the Heaven's favorite arena. When Wang Xian withdrew from the Heaven's Pride stage, everyone was expelled from the surroundings of the Heaven's Pride stage, which was ranked 20th among the Heaven's Pride experts. The moment they came out, they saw Wang Xian walking towards the Heaven's Pride Pavilion. The Heaven's Pride Pavilion was a resting place. It was a resting place that was later established by the Bloodshed Empire. A nameless rat? Just now he said that he was a nameless rat. Hee, how ironic. With such strength, why would he still hide his name and appearance? The prodigy role is the pinnacle in everyone's hearts. Ha, people from the Divine Wind Academy, aren't you all mocking now? This is simply a slap in the face. It wasn't easy for a powerful prodigy to appear, but in the end he provoked others and was directly killed. Over 10,000 people came out from the arena. Some had dazed expressions, some had mocking expressions, and some had shocked expressions. Oh my God, look at the last place on the prodigy roll. Fuck. At this moment, a young man suddenly pointed at the prodigy roll with a shocked expression and exclaimed, "Oh!" Everyone looked over with a shocked expression. How is this possible? How is this possible? 26 years old. Just 26 years old. Oh my God! A young man exclaimed in disbelief. At this moment, the prodigy roll had been updated in real time. The last person was ranked 20th, nameless, 26 years old. A number that made everyone tremble. 26, just 26 years old. Wasn't this fucking too freakish? Crazy. Where did this freakish person come from? 26, just 26 years old. With his strength, he should be able to rank in the top 10 or even higher. He's already so powerful at 26 years old. He'll definitely reach the top of the prodigy roll before he turns 50. I guess he's at least in the top 5 or even the top 3. He didn't draw his sword just now and killed him in one move. This world is simply too crazy. Is that young man hiding his identity a heaven-defying monster secretly nurtured by the Blood Flow Empire? Chapter 1239, Battles of the Prodigies 5. To be on the prodigy roll at the age of 26, this was definitely the first person in history. Most importantly, this 26-year-old youth strength was extremely terrifying. Looking at the few pieces of information on the prodigy roll, everyone was shocked. Regarding this unknown piece of information, it also caused many people to be curious. Some people guessed that it was a heaven-defying disciple nurtured by the Blood Flow Empire, because in their eyes only the Blood Flow Empire had the ability to do so. As for why he hid his identity and his real name, in everyone's opinion, he should hide his strength and keep a low profile. That's right, he should hide his strength and keep a low profile, in order to prevent some people with ill intentions from attacking him before he matured. In less than 10 minutes, Wang Xian went from an unknown rat to a peerless heaven's favorite who hid his strength and kept a low profile. However, while the rest of the people were extremely shocked, the students of the Divine Wind Academy looked extremely embarrassed. The person that Wang Xian killed was one of the most elite students of their Divine Wind Academy. Initially, the Divine Wind Academy was prepared to amaze the world. However, it had now become a stepping stone for another person. This was a huge humiliation to the Divine Wind Academy. Wang Xian sat in a corner of the Heaven's Pride Pavilion, drinking tea and reading the books in the pavilion. These books were all about the current Heaven's Pride Rolls, Heaven's Pride Rolls, Heaven's Pride Rolls introduction. Since he had nothing better to do, he decided to take a look and understand his next opponents. This could be considered as a small respect for them. The 3 people surnamed Tang on the Heaven's Pride Roll are actually the Blood Flow Empire's disciples. No wonder they are worthy of being the strongest faction in the Luhai region. Wang Xian took a sip of his tea and thought to himself. He sat in the prodigy pavilion and attracted many curious and surprised gazes. Soon, the pavilion, which was originally only half filled, was overcrowded. Wang Xian didn't pay any attention to the curious gazes around him. He sat there and casually read some information. Tang Yuan is here. There's also Tang Ling, and Han Mingqing. What are they here for? Are they here to look for an unknown heaven's pride expert? At this moment, rustling sounds came from the surroundings. At the entrance, for people walked in, there were 3 men and 1 woman. Among them, Tang Yuan and a young man whom everyone was unfamiliar with walked in the middle. The moment they entered the Heaven's Pride Pavilion, they also attracted the curious gazes of the people inside. The 4 of them raised their eyebrows slightly. The young man standing beside Tang Yuan was dressed in blue and exuded a noble aura. Brother Tang Yuan, is that nameless heaven's pride from your royal family? The blue-robed young man asked curiously. Not really. If he is a disciple of the royal family, he wouldn't have any disguise. Tang Yuan shook his head and looked at Wang Xian. Why, Brother Han Mingshan wants to get to know him. The young man in blue, Han Mingshan, shook his head and said, if he has the ability, he will be able to get to know him. If he doesn't, there is no need to get to know him. Although he is very outstanding at the age of 26, Brother Mingshan is not bad either. When he reaches Brother Mingshan's age, he might not be as strong as Brother Mingshan. Tang Ling, who was beside him, said with a smile on her face. Han Mingshan shook his head and said, Princess Ling is really flattering me. I'm not being kind. Brother Mingshan, you're here to teach Ling Jian a lesson. If you didn't have the strength, you wouldn't have come. Tang Ling giggled. Han Mingshan smiled. This Ling Jian killed more than 10 elite disciples of our Hanhai Empire. If I hadn't come, he would have really thought that our Hanhai Empire was easy to bully. At the same time, he also happened to catch up with Supreme Genius. The conversation between the four of them was not concealed at all. This was because, with their background and strength, there was no need for them to hide anything. When the surrounding people heard their conversation, they revealed a look of surprise. Wang Xian's heart stirred slightly. He raised his head to take a look and then continued to lower his head. The entire Heaven's Pride stage became lively. Dark horses appeared one after another. They were all 26-year-old prodigies. The Heaven's Pride stage, where battles occurred every day. The imminent appearance of the Heaven's Pride Bridge attracted many low-key young experts. The rankings of the Heaven's Pride role changed from time to time. Later, someone revealed that a powerful prince from the Hanhai dynasty had arrived and was preparing to deal with Ling Jian. The Heaven's Sword sect and the Hanhai dynasty had always been enemies. It had been a long time since an intense battle broke out. The two top forces also watched the battles between the disciples below the profound void stage without breaking this rule. Not long ago, Ling Jian killed a female disciple because she said that Ling Jian was her biological father and didn't want her biological mother to be killed. At the same time, more than a dozen disciples from the powerful families of the Hanhai Empire were killed. Now, the Hanhai Empire came to seek revenge. It might not be a massacre, but there would definitely be some humiliation. Wang Xian didn't care too much about the gossip outside. When he stayed in the Heaven's Pride Pavilion until nighttime, he returned directly to the Heaven's Pride stage. Now he was ranked 20th and could freely enter his own Heaven's Pride stage. After entering the room inside, he continued to study the combined attacks of the four attributes. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Not long after, the Heaven's Pride stone on his body started to tremble. Wang Xian took a look and revealed a faint smile. He's finally here. His body moved and he flew directly towards the Heaven's Pride stage. At this moment, on the 19th Heaven's Pride stage, a young man was standing in the middle with a stick in his hand. When he saw Wang Xian flying over, he revealed a solemn expression. The moment Wang Xian entered the arena, many young men from the surrounding areas entered the arena to watch. Hiss, the Nameless Heaven's Pride has continued to challenge again. Is this the Nameless Heaven's Pride? Is he really 26? Oh my god, he's too young. He has started to challenge the 19th places Zhou Yanjun. I don't think Zhou Yanjun is his match. Definitely not a match for him. The Nameless Heaven's favorite is simply too strong. He is at least in the top 10 or even higher. Tens of thousands of people swarmed in. Many of them were curious, as this was the first time they saw Wang Xian. As for those who called him a nameless rat, they no longer existed. All they could do was exclaim in admiration. The 19th place of the Heaven's favorite, Zhou Yanjun, please enlighten me. Zhou Yanjun was obviously aware of Wang Xian's battle record. He cupped his hands with a solemn expression. You are not my match. Wang Xian cupped his hands lightly at him to show his respect and said directly, I know, but I want to see how big the gap is between us. I will not admit defeat directly. Zhou Yanjun's face revealed a determined look. He held the cudgel with both hands and made an offensive stance. Wang Xian smiled with a hint of admiration in his eyes, as expected of a Heaven's chosen disciple. However, Wang Xian did not show any mercy. With a shake of the long sword in his hand, streams of golden sharp swords shot towards Zhou Yanjun. Ha! He shouted softly and swung the cudgel directly, stirring up the space within a 1,000-meter radius. Chapter 1240, Battle Prodigy 6. Boom! 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 In the sky, numerous golden swords attacked Zhou Yanjun continuously. The terrifying penetrating force caused his expression to change drastically. I admit defeat. With just this move, Zhou Yanjun could feel the terror of Wang Xian. Facing Wang Xian, he felt as though he was facing an insightful emptiness realm expert. After receiving this move, Zhou Yanjun said hurriedly and turned around to retreat outside. Wang Xian nodded his head indifferently and didn't continue to attack. He had no enmity with Zhou Yanjun and wouldn't kill him for no reason. His so fast. Zhou Yanjun only received one move and admitted defeat. Zhou Yanjun may have sensed the difference between him and his opponent. Didn't you see Zhou Yanjun's face turn slightly red just now when he received the next move? When the surrounding people saw Zhou Yanjun quickly admitting defeat, they were all surprised. However, most of them didn't show much surprise. With the strength of the Nameless Heaven's pride expert, there was basically no opponent in the bottom 20. With his strength, I feel that he can at least be ranked in the top 5. Zhou Yanjun took a deep look at Wang Xian and thought to himself. He directly entered the arena that was ranked 20th. The winner went up and the loser went down. This was the rule of the Heaven's Favorites arena. Wang Xian revealed a smile. His body moved and he went straight to a room at the side. There was an additional porcelain bottle in the room which contained 600 bottles of spiritual liquid. The entire Heaven's Favorites arena was a huge formation that was operating. As long as there was energy, it would be able to operate continuously. The energy came from the spiritual liquid. Every time a Heaven's Favorites arena battle was fought, one would receive 1 bottle of spiritual liquid to enter and watch it. Every time a prodigy battle took place, there would be tens of thousands of people watching, and this array received 10,000 spirit liquid every time. The array had its own rules. The reward for defeating the 19th place was only 600 spirit liquid, which was not much. But when it was the top 5, it would be the time to truly earn spirit liquid. 5 people defeating the 4th place would receive 5,000 spirit liquid. The reward for defeating the 3rd place was 10,000 spiritual liquid. The reward for defeating the 2nd place was 20,000 spiritual liquid. The reward for defeating the 1st place was 40,000 spiritual liquid. If Wang Xian could defeat the 1st place from the 20th place, he would be able to obtain about 90,000 spiritual liquid in total. As for the 90,000 spiritual liquid, it was about 63 million dragon crystals. Although there was still a huge gap between them and 1 billion dragon crystals, the speed was fast. At most, they would reach the top in a dozen days. If everything went smoothly, they would be able to obtain 90,000 spiritual liquid in a day. Continue. Without any hesitation, Wang Xian directly challenged the 18th place. To Wang Xian's surprise, the 18th place young man on the Heaven's Pride roll was cultivating in his cultivation room. He accepted the challenge on the spot. Following that, the crushing began. Quick, look at the prodigy roll. The strength of the nameless prodigy is increasing rapidly. Oh my God, he was only ranked 20th just now. Now he's already ranked 13th. The speed of his improvement is too fast. He's on par with that Mu Yuan. Mu Yuan has already risen to 8th place. I wonder if the nameless prodigy and Mu Yuan will clash. I wonder which of these 2 dark horses is stronger. At this moment, the people around the Heaven's Favorite arena who did not enter the arena were shocked when they saw the rankings on the Heaven's Favorite ranking. The speed of the advancement was simply too fast. In less than half a day, he had risen from the 20th place to the 13th place. One could imagine his strength. It's a pity that the 12th Heaven's Favorite young man is not here. When Wang Xian came to the 200-meter tall 12th arena, he shook his head slightly. The 12th ranked Heaven's Pride young man was a woman, Tang Ling, the princess of Bloodshed Empire. Wang Xian did not care about her identity. After issuing the challenge, he returned to his own arena. The 13th ranked Heaven's Pride young man was cultivating on the arena. The increase of spiritual energy had reached 4 times. To many people, it was considered a pretty good paradise. Just as Wang Xian was about to continue comprehending the combination of the four attributes, the communication stone plate received Long Xiaoyan's message. "Are you here?" Wang Xian saw the message and stood up with a smile on his face. His body moved and he flew towards his residence. He still had some void interpretation level weapons and armor in his hands. There were a total of 6 of them, and none of them had been sold. 6 of them were all above the first level of the void interpretation level. Each of them was worth at least 50 to 60 billion mid-grade spirit stones. 6 of them were worth at least 300 billion mid-grade spirit stones. Long Xiaotian said that he would help him sell all of these weapons and armors. He knew that Long Xiaotian wanted to rope him in, so he did not reject him. He had already considered Long Xiaotian as a friend. If he helped him, he would naturally help him as well. After Wang Xian left the Heaven's Pride stage, he took off his mask and black robe. Then, he quickly flew towards his residence. When he arrived at the pine and poplar forest, there were 5 to 6 middle-aged elders standing in front of his residence. Other than the familiar by Ching Song, Wang Xian had never seen the other 5 people. However, Wang Xian could feel a strong energy from them. This was especially so for the white-haired old man in the middle. When Wang Xian looked at the old man was also sizing him up. His eyes were sparkling. "Brother Wang Xian." Long Xiaotian smiled when he saw Wang Xian. He shouted immediately. Wang Xian nodded with a smile. "Brother Xiaotian, who are these?" "These are the people from the Guanglong kingdom. They are some of my elders." Long Xiaotian did not introduce them in detail. Wang Xian nodded at the middle-aged elders. "Come in, everyone. Since Brother Xiaotian is the one who introduced me, I will sell the last 6 weapons and armor to you at a 10% discount on the market price." Wang Xian opened the door and said with a smile, "Haha, little brother is really loyal. No wonder Xiaotian is able to become friends with you." An elder laughed out loud as he looked at Wang Xian with a friendly gaze. "I only make friends with the right people. Brother Xiaotian, you are a good person." Wang Xian responded with a smile and led them into the courtyard. Long Xiaotian was delighted when he heard Wang Xian's words. He gestured to the elders and followed them in. Roar, roar. Seeing Wang Xian's arrival, Ling Zilin and the blood-evil turtle let out low roars and walked over one by one as if they were trying to curry favor with him. Wang Xian patted their heads and took out their weapons and armor before handing them over to Long Xiaotian. "Show these weapons to the seniors." "All right." Long Xiaotian took them over and passed them to a few middle-aged and old men. The few of them held them in their hands and looked at them. Satisfaction appeared on their faces. "Not bad, Xiaotian. Pass the spiritual liquid directly to your brother." The white-haired old man in the middle looked at it. A satisfied expression appeared on his face, and he nodded his head immediately. "All right." Long Xiaotian smiled and nodded his head. He passed the bottles of spiritual liquid to Wang Xian one by one. Chapter 1241, Battle Prodigy 7. This young man is not simple. Long Xiaotian and the rest did not stay in Wang Xian's courtyard for long. When they walked out, the white-haired old man in the middle turned his head to take a look and said faintly, "Brother Wang Xian is very mysterious, and his beast-taming skills are also very powerful. I feel that his strength should not be weaker than the first level of the see-through void stage." Long Xiaotian nodded with a smile and continued, "Second Grandpa, this is not considered a violation of the rules, right? It is not considered borrowing other powers, right? Hee, it doesn't count, it doesn't count." The white-haired old man shook his head with a smile. "You are lucky to be able to know this friend of yours." After he finished speaking, he was silent for a few seconds before he continued. "There is a high chance for you to seize this opportunity." "Yes, Second Grandpa. I will definitely do it." When Long Xiaotian heard the white-haired old man's words, a hint of excitement flashed across his eyes. His gaze was firm as he hurriedly said, "Haha, work hard. Your other brothers aren't bad either." The white-haired old man laughed loudly and patted his shoulder. He said earnestly, "If you can bring that young man to your side, your assessment this time is basically stable. Even if he doesn't follow you, with his help, you have a very high chance." The surrounding middle-aged elders were extremely excited when they saw what the white-haired old man said to Long Xiaotian. The white-haired old man was one of the few decision-makers in the selection of the crown prince. They were all experts of the light dragon royal family's older generation. Even the king had to call the old man uncle when he saw him. The older generation formed a fair and impartial jury to monitor the fairness of all the prince's assessments. With the monitoring, nothing would go wrong. The princes could forget about borrowing other powers. This time, Long Xiaotian wanted to get his mother's family to buy all the weapons and armor in Wang Xian's hands. However, this matter was related to his mother's family. He called over this white-haired elder, who was also his second grandpa. "Xiaotian, work hard." The other 4 middle-aged elders were from Long Xiaoyan's mother's family. His mother's family was also one of the best in the luminous dragon empire. If Long Xiaotian could reach the top, his mother's family would also receive huge benefits. "Okay." Long Xiaotian nodded his head heavily. The energy contained in the body of a 4th-level void interpretation expert is really terrifying. I'm definitely not a match for that old man. Wang Xian watched as Long Xiaotian and the rest left. His eyes flickered. If I can master the combination of the 5 elements and become a divine dragon, I should be able to defeat him. With this thought in his mind, Wang Xian took out some food and fed it to Ling Zilin and the blood evil turtle. "Awoo!" At this moment, a familiar cry was heard. Wang Xian raised his head and looked at the wall. As expected, Ling Jian, who was dressed in white, was hugging Xiaoha, who was trying to break free. She looked at him. "Hey, beauty, you can just knock on the door. It's very impolite for you to stand on the wall." Wang Xian looked at her and said in a slightly speechless manner. Ling Jian Yar's eyelashes fluttered when she heard her words. "Here, this is the remaining spiritual liquid. I don't know you anymore." With a cold expression, she threw a bottle of spiritual liquid and said to him, "Didn't you say you don't want it? Return it to me." Wang Xian looked at her and said in astonishment. However, the cold Ling Jian ignored him and turned around to leave. "Hee, you really have a personality." Wang Xian looked at the spiritual liquid in his hand and kept it. He would be a fool not to keep it. Let's return to the Heaven's Pride stage. Let's quickly break through the Heaven's Pride roll and think of a way to continue earning spiritual liquid. Wang Xian's figure moved and flew out. However, when Wang Xian flew out, he bumped into Ling Jian. "Awoo!" Xiaoha also saw Wang Xian and shouted at him. Ling Jian turned her head and a hint of doubt flashed in her eyes. "Are you going to the Heaven's Pride stage?" Wang Xian looked at her and greeted her. "Yes." She nodded coldly and remained silent for a while. "Are you going there too?" "Yes. I heard that the Heaven's Pride Bridge will appear there and there will be a selection for the supreme talents. I'm going there to watch the show." Wang Xian nodded his head. "With your strength, if you ascend to the prodigy stage, you will be able to obtain a good ranking." Ling Jian Yar's eyes sparkled as she looked at him. "Me? I can't. I heard that the competition on the prodigy roll is very intense now. A 26-year-old young man is ranked 13th. He's really amazing. He's simply too handsome." The corner of Wang Xian's mouth curled up slightly as he said shamelessly, "Really? You can't do it?" Wang Xian didn't notice that Ling Jian Yar's eyes were filled with disdain when she heard his words. She was already certain that this fellow was Sword Demon. He could kill 2 powerhouses at the first level of the see-through void tier. Yet he still said that he couldn't do it. Men were really shameless. No, no, I'm just going to join in the fun. Ling Jian, ER, is a beauty. She's actually ranked 4th on the prodigy roll. TSK, I'm envious. Since he had nothing to do, Wang Xian was full of nonsense. Humph. Ling Jian snorted. He didn't expect that the extremely cold sword demon in front of the Sor mansion would be so shameless. The two of them flew towards the heavens pride stage. Wang Xian and Ling Jian, ER, would occasionally exchange a few words. Although it wasn't nutritious, it was still much better than walking alone. When they arrived at the heavens pride stage, Wang Xian informed Ling Jian, before he left and flew towards the heavens pride pavilion. The tea leaves in the heavens pride pavilion were not bad. He was prepared to buy some and drink them in the room where he took them back to the heavens pride stage. Ling Jian watched as he left and looked at the heavens pride roll. Nameless. She looked at the name ranked 13th and mumbled, her face revealing a thoughtful expression. Ling Jian, you really made it easy for me to find you. At this moment, a cold voice suddenly sounded from the side. Ling Jian turned her head around coldly and saw more than 30 people walking towards him. Her eyes flickered with a cold luster. Walking in the middle was Han Mingshan, who was dressed in blue. Beside him was Han Mingqing, who was ranked 7th on the prodigy roll. Around them were a group of elite disciples from the Hanhai dynasty. Among the 30 over people, the weakest was at the 7th level of the Transcendent Realm, while the 9th level of the Transcendent Realm was around 10. Han Mingshan held a water spirit pearl that contained a powerful energy in his hand and played with it. So it's a bunch of trash from the Hanhai dynasty. Ling Jian Yar's gaze swept across the crowd as she spoke directly with a face full of disdain. Hee, Ling Jian, you're too arrogant. A few days ago, you killed over a dozen disciples of our Hanhai dynasty. Today, I'll make you pay a heavy price. Han Mingshan's expression turned cold as he stared at Ling Jian, as he spoke with a flickering gaze. The heavy price with just you. Ling Jian looked at them all. There was no trace of fear on his face. Chapter 1242, Battle of the Elites. Ling Jian, you are too arrogant. With just me alone, I can easily cripple you. Han Mingshan's expression turned cold, and a trace of killing intent flashed in his eyes. You killed more than 10 elite disciples of our Hanhai dynasty. Ling Jian, today I will make you pay the price. Han Mingqing held a long sword in his hand and pointed it at her. Hee, are you all coming together or one by one? Ling Jian moved her hand, and a long metal sword appeared in her hand, staring coldly at them. What happened? It's Ling Jian, and the people of the Hanhai dynasty. That's Han Mingqing, and that should be the black horse Han Mingshan who suddenly appeared just now. In just a few short hours, he directly entered the prodigy roll and defeated 7 prodigies in one go. He's now ranked 14th on the prodigy roll. If that nameless prodigy isn't here, his ranking might continue to rise. I've watched Han Mingshan's battle. He's a prince of the Hanhai dynasty, and his strength is extremely terrifying. All of his opponents were defeated within 5 moves. That Han Mingshan's strength should be even stronger than Han Mingqing's. A few days ago, Ling Jian killed over a dozen people from the Hanhai dynasty. Now, it looks like the Hanhai dynasty is coming for revenge. Ling Jian killed Han Mingwen, who was once ranked 17th on the prodigy roll. Han Mingwen is the son of a prince of the Hanhai dynasty. The Hanhai dynasty will definitely not let this go. 2 princes want to deal with Ling Jian. This time, Ling Jian is in trouble. Although I don't dare to kill her, I will definitely humiliate her. Around them, some people looked over in surprise when they saw Ling Jian and the people from the Hanhai dynasty gathered. Be it Ling Jian, Han Mingqing, or Han Mingshan, they were all the prodigies that everyone was looking at. especially Ling Jian, ER. She was a woman and ranked fourth on the Heaven's Favorites list. She was extremely powerful. Although Han Mingshan had just appeared on the Heaven's Favorite stage, he had already become the third dark horse after Mu Yuan and Nameless. He had defeated 7 Heaven's Favorites within a few hours. Let me test your strength first. HMPH, a ruthless woman who killed her own mother and killed her own brother and second mother. Just how powerful is she? Han Mingqing's eyes were filled with coldness. You killed my cousin. Today, I will strip you of all your clothes. Shut up and die. When Ling Jian heard Han Mingqing's words, a strong killing intent appeared in her eyes. The golden long sword in her hand directly attacked Han Qingming. The bone-piercing cold light could be clearly felt by everyone within a few hundred meters. Her mother had been killed, and she had killed her younger brother and second mother to take revenge. This was a taboo for her, and it would forever scar her heart. No one was allowed to offend her, much less throw salt on it. Otherwise, she would definitely kill the other party. A few days ago, a woman from the Boundless Sea dynasty had taunted and provoked her, and she had killed more than a dozen people. Haha, good, let's fight. I want to see what a witch who was chased out of the sect by her father is capable of. Han Qingming felt the bone-piercing sharpness, and his expression changed, but he still taunted. People who lost their reason were easier to deal with. They knew Ling Jian Yar's weakness, and they also knew that this matter would make Ling Jian lose her reason. Ling Jian Yar's arms trembled from the attack, and her eyes were slightly moist and bloodshot. Pung, pung, pung. Facing Ling Jian Han Qingming did not dare to be the slightest bit careless. One water sword after another directly covered Ling Jian. An intense collision sound rang out. Han Qingming directly moved forward, and one after another, powerful water energy attacked Ling Jian. He was ranked 7th on the prodigy roll, and his strength was at the peak of the half-step void interpretation realm. Even if Ling Jian was very strong, it wouldn't be that easy to defeat him. The battle between the prodigies caused the surrounding people to hurriedly retreat. Ha, vicious and merciless witch. Today we will teach you a good lesson on behalf of your father. Han Qingming saw that Ling Jian Yar's attacks were a little messy and laughed out loud as he mocked her once again. His voice spread out for a few kilometers and was basically heard by everyone around the Heaven's Pride stage. He called her a witch one after another, and each of them was ruthless. This Ling Jian is really unlucky. She fell out with her father, and her mother was killed. She even killed her talented younger brother. The people from the Hanhai dynasty are obviously trying to bully Ling Jian in public and make him collapse. The people from the Heavenly Sword sect are there, but they won't help. That Ling Jian is going to be unlucky today. The surrounding people looked at the 2 people fighting in the arena, then looked at the other prince behind them and said in a low voice. Not far away from them, a group of youths wearing the Heavenly Sword sect's uniform looked at the arena coldly, without the slightest reaction. Go to hell. When Ling Jian heard his words, she took a deep breath. Her eyes were bloodshot. A golden light flashed across her chest. The golden light was extremely bright as it entered the sword in her hand. Haha, you still can't kill me. Han Mingqing laughed out loud. A look of confidence flashed across his eyes. He knew that he was not Ling Jian Yar's match. However, it was very, very difficult for Ling Jian to kill him. He had a level 2 profound void martial stage armor, and the long sword in Ling Jian Yar's hand was also a level 2 profound void martial stage. As long as he escaped, he would definitely not be able to kill him. He came to challenge him, and then asked his elder brother to make a move. Otherwise, if they joined forces to attack, it would make people think that their Hanhai Empire was so weak that they needed to join forces to bully a woman. Seeing a golden ray of light attacking towards him, He held the long sword in both hands and lightly shook it. Boundless sea, sword defense. He shouted, and the corners of his mouth curled up. He used a sword technique, divine ability to meet the ray of golden light. Pooh! However, the next moment he was stunned. The ray of golden light easily pierced through his divine ability defense. This ray of sword light seemed to be able to pierce through everything as it attacked him. Break for me! Han Ming-Ching's expression changed slightly. He raised the long sword in his hand and met the golden light directly. When the long sword in his hand landed on the golden light, his expression changed drastically. The arm that was holding the long sword started to bleed. A terrifying sharp light flowed through his arm and entered his body, causing his entire body to feel extremely uncomfortable. He felt as if his body was about to collapse. What attack is this? How can it be so terrifying? His expression changed drastically, and his eyes were filled with fear. Resplendent origin of gold. A cold voice continued to sound out, causing Han Ming-Ching's eyes to be filled with shock. Fifth brother, save me. Feeling the even more terrifying golden light attack, Han Ming-Ching's face was filled with shock as he cried out in fear. His body was in extreme pain, and his body was stiff. There was no way for him to escape. What? Behind him, the people of the Hanhai dynasty were watching the battle between Han Ming-Ching and Ling Jian. When Han Ming-Ching suddenly asked for help, they were slightly stunned. Han Ming-Shan looked over and immediately noticed Han Ming-Ching's strange expression. His expression changed drastically. Ling Jian, stop. If you dare to hurt my seventh brother, no one will be able to save you today. He moved and shouted at Ling Jian. Just as he finished his sentence, the Golden Origins attack landed on Han Ming-Ching. There was no obstruction. In an instant, Han Ming-Ching was pierced through. His life force disappeared in an instant. Seeing this scene, everyone was stunned.